Oi. You got some Trump up in there. Hang on. That's my best British accent, by the by. Some... The lo-fi girl has been replaced with a cow. Yep. That's pretty good. Alright, we're having a talk with Average Debate Enjoyer. And as far as I know, he's ready to have that talk now. Hello, my friend. How are you?
Hey, what's going on?
Going well. It's going well. Are you going to be streaming as well?
Yeah, I'm still setting it all up. I just got home from work a second ago, so like...
How was work? Oh, by the by, I'm streaming
Yeah.
right now, so, don't say where you work or anything like that, unless you give a shit.
It was kind of busy. I don't give a shit. Hey, it's my free business. My boss is more right-wing than I am by far. He don't give a shit what I say. He watches most of my debates, to be honest with you.
Oh, that's cool. I just meant, like, if you didn't want anybody knowing where you worked or whatever it is you did for a living. It's not my business, but just letting you know I'm streaming now. But hey, your boss sounds really cool.
No, it's just a fair concern because there are some crazy people on the internet and whatnot, but...
I've spoken to a few of them.
How do I pop this screen out? There it is. Okay, cool. Hey, that's me.
Push your volume up a bit here. That's you? What's you?
I just popped me out, so I'm streaming. I was putting myself on the screen for my stream is all.
I gotcha. Are you gonna be streaming on YouTube or Twitch? How do you stream?
I thought I had YouTube set up in my OBS, but I guess I don't. I gotta go back and review it. It was supposed to be both YouTube and Twitch, but only Twitch is working. So
I'm too much of a boomer to figure out how to do the multi-stream shit, and I'm too lazy to read the tutorials.
And like, I'm a programmer. Like, I should know this shit, and I don't.
Okay, well, when you figure it out, let me know so I can figure it out.
Yeah, right?
We'll wait on you to get ready.
No, I'm all good. I'm on. My plug will be happy because he told me the latest he can serve me is 8. So I'll tell him now I can be like half an hour earlier.
What are you getting?
Just like, I don't even do names.
Wait, okay. Do we mean the same thing when you say plug?
Yeah. I don't know, like, I thought you're like asking type and all that. I don't even care. Yeah, it's like 10% sativa and 14% indica.
Weed. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I get psychedelics from my plug, so I don't know what all you're banging on. Try to explain this feng shui to me though, because I'm looking at you right now on your camera as you just took a toke, and you seem to be an ardent Republican. How do you square voting? Okay, well, let me ask you then. Did you vote Republican last election?
I voted GOP for the first time in my life when I split ticket and voted for Trump in 2020. And then in 2024, I voted Trump. In 2022, I voted Kemp. And then blew all the way down for Ossoff and Warnock. 2024, I did not vote for Biden. I voted for Trump, and I think I voted blue all the way down the ticket otherwise. So
perfect. Explain the kind of a paradox to me of somebody who would vote Republican while also being somebody who seems to enjoy recreational drug use, when Republicans are, they're dead on about not only outlawing it, criminalizing it, and throwing you in jail for it, right? Even when it comes to legal businesses like Delta 8 and Delta 9 products here in Texas, they want to bring the hammer down, even though it's a totally legit business, their oversight fucked that up, but like they're as far as can be seen, laws are being applied with. And how do you not notice the hypocrisy of a party that champions individual freedoms when it comes to guns, right? The number one killer of children, but insists on aggressively attacking legitimate legal businesses that sell THC products to people aged 21 and over.
Well, when I was growing up, California was, I think, one of the first states to legalize weed. There were like a few states that legalized it.
Is California where you're from?
No, New York. That was when the Obama raids were going on. There was raid over and over. I think there were multiple a year on different states, raiding out all their statewide legal weed businesses because they infringed with the federal law at the time. So, like, I got to see firsthand it was not just the Republican Party doing this.
Yeah, in fairness, it's not. It's not.
Yeah,
but Republicans do
real.
tend to be more aggressive on it. You must acknowledge this as well. That every time
Generally,
the
yes.
states that legalize marijuana or legalize psychedelics, those tend to be liberal left states, and the states that try to throw people in jail just for having it, not necessarily for selling it, just for having it, are conservative Republican ones.
Yeah, it seems like the only right-wing movements against criminalizing drugs are libertarian ones, and libertarians are such a small sub-faction of the right wing. I don't think they actually really control much in any state government. So generally they are. It's just more like, I take it like how most voters take issues. You got 500 issues out there that you could potentially vote on every election. You kind of like, what are my top three and who's better on those top three?
Sure. Why don't you tell me what your top three issues are then?
Economy, law and order, and I don't really have a third one. Like, my life's doing pretty good.
Just to be clear, one of your top three issues is law and order, and you voted for a convicted felon?
Yeah.
You don't see anything weird about that?
No. I mean, at face value a little bit, but I think that's just going to get overturned on appeal like most people do. The Harvard-Harris poll I linked you for March, if you go back to the January one, something like 65-70% of people don't really like that ruling and think it's going to get overturned in appeal.
I guess that's not relevant to me. The question I would be asking is, did Donald Trump break the law, and was he found guilty of doing so? And a jury of his peers found that he did, and he was given the same due process rights that he's been denying everybody else. No shit. He did break the law. He was found guilty. He got a number of felony indictments against him that he tried to not deny that he ever did anything wrong, but to just say he has immunity from being convicted of any crime whatsoever. This doesn't seem law and order to me. This seems this seems opposite, right? What's the first thing he does when he gets into office? He says, well, I'm going to pardon 1,500 people who violently attacked police officers on January 6th because they're my supporters. How do you face yourself in the mirror as the law and order guy, knowing this is who you voted for?
Well, because there's, a binary choice, and all those things you mentioned, even taking them with the interpretation that you did, still significantly better than the Democratic Party on law and order.
How? Where did the Democrats pardon 1,500 people who attacked police officers? What's a Democratic Party equivalent to that?
They didn't pardon, they just didn't charge. Like, when the Black Lives Matter riots of peace and the Columbia protests that ended up being them taking over buildings and forcing Jews out of them took place, like, there was arrests and no prosecutions. There was a massive dropping of charges.
I'm sorry, that's just not... There might have been dropping of charges, but there were prosecutions.
True.
People were absolutely prosecuted.
I could show you Alvin Bragg in particular, like Chesa Boudin back during the Black Lives Matter thing. He got kicked out of office by his own party in San Francisco. But there's Larry Krasner. There's a bunch of different DAs that are very soft on crime, passing very lenient crime policy that people in those areas don't like. You can rob somebody at gunpoint right now in New York City. As long as you don't pull the trigger, you can get out that same day with no bail. Like, that shit is pissed. That to me is an endorsement of law and order. When you have one party fighting to allow people here illegally to stay, even after they get caught drunk driving, that to me is a systemic problem with the entire party, not just the flaws of one individual that won a primary. Like, it's the party's entire message to push what Kamala Harris described in her book as a smart on crime approach. So it's ingrained into the movement itself to be softer on criminals.
Yeah, no, I'm sorry, that's just not true.
It absolutely is.
It's just not. You can Google plenty of convictions as a result of Black Lives Matter protests. People were convicted of crime. Same with the Columbia University. Same with the... Well, actually, that's actually what you were saying earlier.
If your standard is convicted of crime...
Hang on. Same with the Columbia University protests earlier. None of those people were pardoned by Democrats. None of those people, no Democrat in office looked at people who violently attacked police officers and said, let's let those people go free. Donald Trump did that day one with 1,500 people who we have on camera attacking police officers, stomping on the necks of police officers, using tasers on police officers.
You're using two different standards. You're saying people were arrested here. Some people were arrested here despite the fact that charges were dropped in most cases.
Why do you think charges were dropped?
Hold on. You're saying people were arrested here, but then you're going to the riots at January 6th, where all those people were arrested, convicted, and served jail time before they were pardoned. So all the criteria you're saying that might have happened over here definitely happened over here, and then they were pardoned afterward.
Why were
all those things happened?
Yeah, why were these charges dropped?
Charges dropped for Columbia University students arrested in pro-Palestine protests. Dozens of pro-Palestine protesters arrested in April after
occupying. Why were they dropped?
They didn't give a great reason. They just didn't. I'm looking right now through it. Right, the article at the time. All these matters are dismissed and sealed in the interests of justice, Judge Kevin McGrath announced in the courtroom. So we don't know.
Okay, so you don't know why these charges were dropped. Could it be lack of evidence?
Could be. We don't know. They sealed it.
Don't you think that's relevant?
Yeah. If it was lack of evidence, they could have just said it was a lack of evidence. But we know that these people were arrested in the building by the police. The building that they were illegally occupying at the time. The police went in. You remember, there was like a distraction, and they ended up going up to the second window and coming around behind them and arrested all these people in the building in the act of illegally occupying a government or a private facilities building. And the charges were placed on them. And then the prosecutor dropped. 46 protesters were arrested that night. 13 of them, it's saying 13 of them faced charges after. And I don't think there were any convictions. So that's kind of the point people are looking at. And there's also, like, during the Black Lives Matter protests, there were riots going on. The vice president of the country was putting together a fund to bail out people that were being arrested for breaking laws during these protests, while she was running for office and while she was running for the VP slot.
Yeah, I've heard this same thing, but none of this extends to people who attack police officers. Donald Trump knowingly and intentionally pardoned people who attack police officers. I don't understand how you gloss over this every single time. There's no equal to this with the there's no equal to this on the Democratic side. The Democrats have not expunged the records of people, letting them back on the streets after violently attacking police officers. You don't have evidence of that.
Yeah, okay, so I don't have evidence of this one specific thing. I'm giving you worse, more systemic issues. And you're saying, well, you can't equate this one thing.
I'm sorry, I don't agree.
Attacking police officers.
I'm sorry, no, I don't agree that protesting at Columbia University is worse than violently attacking the Capitol.
I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is there was a man that shot a police officer in the head during the Black Lives Matter violent protests.
Okay, was he charged?
Shot him in the head. Yes.
Was he arrested?
Yes. So more police officers died during those riots than the January 6th
let's talk about that one guy. Was he arrested and convicted?
Yes.
Then what do you want?
You're saying that that January 6th was worse because they attacked police officers. I'm saying that this is worse because they actually killed police officers.
January 6th was worse because they attacked Congress in an attempt to keep a person elected as president who lost an election, and that person sent them there. It's worse because that person then pardoned them, knowing they attacked law enforcement. That's what makes it worse.
What I'm saying here is every time I rebuttal, it seems like the goalpost shifts, because we're originally talking about
goalpost has been the same area this entire time.
You asked me about crime in particular, how I can vote for one party over the other for crime.
No, I asked how you could vote for a felon, to be clear.
Yeah, well, you asked how it's a hypocrisy on drug abuse as well, like how I can be in favor of law and order and vote for a party that pardoned people, 1,500 people for his first thing in office. These are all points you brought up for this. Mm-hmm. So, I'm giving you examples of more egregious, worse things that are on a systemic level, not just one guy and his personal fouls, but like across the country, different states, all doing these same things. The vice president that was running, doing the same thing. Like it's a party issue with the Democrats. It's a Trump issue with the Republicans. And on top of that, like the actual
Trump is the Republican Party now. I just don't agree. Like the Democrats have not pardoned or dismissed or otherwise excused violent felonious crimes, and the Republicans have. They elected a felon to be their president, and then they cheerled the felon pardoning people who attack law enforcement.
Joe Biden, like, end the sentence of a guy that killed 2 FBI agents?
No, he didn't. They're not out free. No, he didn't.
He commuted the sentence.
He stopped them from getting the death penalty. You might feel a way about the death penalty, but they're not out free. Donald Trump freed these people.
Okay, well, I mean, they didn't kill anybody, so it's not as egregious of a crime. I mean, like, that's how the pardon power works. You can disagree with it, but, like, that doesn't mean, like you can separate this one anecdotal action and use that to justify them being worse on law and order than a systemic
I
action
guess my
intentional.
Issue, I mean, I understand that. My issue is that I think, implicit in the pardon power in a constitutional republic like ours, one built on the rule of law, is this idea that there's legitimacy behind the use of that pardon power. Donald Trump pardoned these people because they supported him. In fact, he even admitted to pardoning a guy because he supported him, right? The Miller guy, I don't remember what the guy's full name is, but the guy who defrauded his investors by making a fake video. Like, he basically said, I've never met him, but, I'm told he was a big supporter of Donald Trump. This is not legitimate use of pardon powers. This is clear pay for play, right? This doesn't make us exceptional.
Anything to say that there's a legitimate use of pardon power, because the guy after him pardoned his son and a bunch of politicians that were being investigated for potentially illegal acts, just gave them a blanket pardon for charges we haven't even discovered yet. Like, if Hunter Biden killed a hooker in those 12 years, he doesn't get charged for killing a hooker.
Hunter Biden's not in office. Hunter Biden's not president. Let me just ask you, has Donald Trump done anything wrong with these pardons? Do you see that he did anything wrong? Let me just try that.
What is your definition? Like, legally wrong or morally wrong? What level are you asking?
Whatever version of wrong you want. Was Donald Trump wrong to pardon violent felons?
No.
Was Donald Trump wrong to commit a felonious crime himself?
I think he was wrong to the actual bookkeeping misdemeanor that he did was wrong.
He didn't get convicted of a misdemeanor. He got convicted of a felony.
Well, I'm answering the question. You're answering
a different question. There's no misdemeanor.
I know the details of the case. So the answer to that is, if you want to just know about the felony, no, I think the felony charges were absolute bullshit. So does most of the country. I think it's a misdemeanor charge that they had to trump up based off of some wacky legal theory that most people think in polling is going to get overturned on appeal. Most people didn't take it that seriously.
Okay.
In fact, it's like, if you're going to charge the president with something, it better be something good and not a fucking bookkeeping error. That's what it was a bookkeeping error.
It was an attempt to conceal a crime. It was an
Nope, that shit, because he could have paid his lawyer differently and it would have been legal. He could have paid his lawyer for the exact same thing, just labeled the payment differently.
Yes, right.
So the only
failing
was
to disclose this, right, because he didn't want it.
Wrong.
Well, yes, he did it in an illegal way. That's pretty relevant. Yes, he broke the law. It's not a misdemeanor. He intentionally tried to conceal a crime, right? And then he was non-cooperative with the investigation, so that he could try to claim he's being, this is lawfare, when in fact he just hid that he used campaign funds to pay his attorney to buy the silence of a porn star that he had an affair with. Was he wrong to have the affair, at least?
We don't know for a fact that he did. We don't have
really.
Any
you don't know that
evidence.
Donald Trump had an affair with Stormy Daniels?
We don't have any actual evidence to prove it. It's he said, she said.
Okay.
So,
then why would he pay her money? Why do you think he would pay her money if he didn't have an affair?
To kill the story. Catch and kill happens all the time. If you watch that trial, he paid his doorman money to quash a story about a kid that wasn't even his. The whole story was fake, but he ended up paying out money just to catch and kill the story.
Gotcha.
So
your contention is that Stormy Daniels made it up and Trump paid for her silence?
I just don't want to speculate.
Anyway?
I think it probably happened. I just don't want to speculate because there's no proof. But if you look at the facts of the trial, what Bragg claimed is that what you're saying, the misappropriation of the funds, the mislabeling of the funds, the concealing of the funds, that's a misdemeanor offense. How it becomes a felony is you have to do it with the intention of committing a secondary crime. He was never charged with any of the 3 secondary crimes that Bragg put in front of them. One of them was New York State election law. One of them was federal election law that the FEC and DOJ both reviewed prior and passed over charging Trump on. Even though they charged Hillary Clinton with a very similar charge for her lack of disclosure of the Steele dossier that same election, they did not charge Trump for this. So the feds passed on charging this. Bragg took it upon himself to give himself the authority to go after Trump for federal crimes that he doesn't have the jurisdiction to do, and say Trump tried to commit this federal crime, so you have to say this is now a felony. There was no actual proof that he commit the second crime. He was never charged with them. He was never convicted of them. It was speculation that turned this misdemeanor into a felony.
All right, gotcha. Doesn't sound like I'm going to be, from the sounds of things, I'm not going to be able to convince you one way or the other. You seem intent on believing that Donald Trump hasn't done anything legally wrong.
No, the misdemeanor thing he did was wrong.
In fact, you don't even seem to think he's done anything morally wrong when it comes to his use of pardon power. If Donald Trump pardoned himself, would you see anything wrong with that?
Yes, that's not allowed. Yeah, the pardon power, like if you read the Federalist Papers of why the pardon power exists, Trump and Biden both used it exactly how it's supposed to be used. Now, morally, you didn't ask me that. On a moral level, I would say that pardoning your son and pardoning a bunch of people that attack police officers is bad, absolutely. And that's like what Kash Patel said during his hearing. Everyone that was just in there trespassing, absolutely pardon them. But anyone of like I think it was 87 people that had violent offenses against them, against property or police, all those people shouldn't have been pardoned, absolutely. But that being said, that's how it's supposed to go. That's what it's supposed to be at the discretion of the executive. He sees something that's unfair. Trump thought that these enhancements using terrorism against these people were unfair and trumped the charges up too much. And that's why he pardoned them. He's flat out said that. He said most of these people have served a lot of time. So, that's what it's supposed to be used for. That's what Adams said in the Federalist Papers.
I don't believe this is what the pardon power is supposed to be. I don't believe I think if you told the founding fathers that a future president would get a crowd to the Capitol building to attack it so that he could try to remain in office, and then he just pardoned them, I don't think they would say that's what the pardon power is for. I think they would say that's a gross misuse. Do you think the founding fathers would agree that that's an abuse of the pardon power?
Yeah. What you just framed absolutely is, because that's
not what I just framed. That's what happened.
No, what I just said was that they used extra charges of terrorism to enhance the charges to make them significantly more drastic. And that part was the part that Trump specifically disagreed with. He said it verbatim.
Okay, my worry here is that we're operating in two different worlds. Donald Trump, factually speaking, tried to stay in office in 2020. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, that vaguely he tried to stay in office. He did.
Not vaguely. He set out a plan to stay in office.
Yeah,
he enacted a plan which resulted in felony charges against him to try to stay in office, such as the fake elector scheme, such as telling the DOJ to write letters to these states saying they found voter fraud, so don't certify the election, even though the DOJ didn't.
January 6 hearings multiple times. I know every fact of the case on this. I'm well aware of it.
Okay, all of these factually happened so Donald Trump could stay in office, right? I don't want to live in a separate reality here. Donald Trump tried to stay in office, and he tried to use the levers of government to keep himself in office, and then he called a mob on January 6th that he sent to the Capitol building where a riot happened. You don't want to blame him for the riot? Fine, right? But the fact is a riot happened after he sent them there.
If you want to live in reality, you're going to have to come down from all these hyper-partisan, somewhat gish-galloping stances.
Hang on, just stop. What did I say that was factually incorrect?
If Donald Trump sent them to the Capitol to riot, that is incitement of a mob. That's what you said.
No, I said the opposite. I said if you don't want to blame him for the riot, fine, you don't have to. But he sent them to the Capitol building where a riot happened. That's what I said, because that's factually what happened. He told them to go to the Capitol building. You acknowledge that, right?
Yeah, he did.
And you acknowledge a riot happened after he sent them there, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so everything I just said was factually true.
Okay, so I just don't see anything wrong with it.
You don't see anything wrong with anything Donald Trump did in the 2020? Any of those facts I just laid out, you don't see a thing?
Just the facts you just laid out. So the first part, the interpretation of the Electoral Count Act, in terms of just interpreting it on a mechanical level of what the president's allowed to do, no. But on a moral level of what his actual intent was to stay in power, yes. He's allowed to interpret things. The charges were kind of stupid, and that's why you saw him go nowhere after they got downplayed multiple times. The Supreme Court slapped down one of the obstruction charges, and then the other Supreme Court ruling made them completely have to rewrite the charges.
Just to be clear, the Supreme Court never slapped down any charges. They just said he has immunity.
They
presumptive
did
immunity
down.
for.
Yes, they did.
Which charges did they slap down?
Maybe you should ask the question before you say the thing first. So the January 6 people went to the Supreme Court. One of the obstruction charges that was being used against them was being used improper. The Supreme Court agreed, and that charge was removed.
No. I meant against Trump. Oh, you're referring to the January 6th people.
That was the same obstruction charge was also used against Trump. Yes.
Gotcha.
I don't have it offhand. Joe, Good Logic is the one that knows the exact code for it. He'll tell you if you watch that guy.
Gotcha. If let's rewind to 2020 then, because you saw all this happen and you still felt confident enough in Trump to vote for him. Did Donald Trump lose the 2020 election?
Yeah.
He did. You were fine with him, even though he lost the election, trying to use the powers of government to stay in office?
I mean, I'm not fine with it. It just doesn't...
You're fine with it enough to vote for him?
Yeah. Because I wouldn't be able to vote for anybody if I didn't.
How do you hold Donald Trump accountable for anything he's done? Like, you've shown you'll go this far with him.
Opinion polls, that's really... It's like, what does an individual have to hold the president accountable?
The individual has a vote.
Yeah.
The individual has a vote. But you didn't deny him that vote. You said, that's fine. You tried to stay in office even though you lost an election, and I agree you lost an election, but I'm still fine with that. I'm going to vote for you anyway.
Yeah.
You don't see anything wrong with that?
I mean, in isolation, absolutely. It's terrible, and I hate the fact that I have to vote for him, but if he's the better choice between the two, then it is what it is.
What did Kamala Harris do that was in any way equal to that?
Nothing. She was just an awful candidate with bad plans who wanted a hyper-progressive her entire career. Nobody wanted her in office. Nobody liked her. Nobody gave her a single electoral college vote. And she was coming off a failed administration that was -24 in the border polling and their immigration poll.
So you just didn't like her. She didn't do anything near as bad as what Trump did. You just didn't like her.
Democrats did a terrible job in office, and holding them accountable was more important with my vote because they were worse than Trump to me.
Gotcha.
Even though Trump denied an election. The only reason he was able to is because there were 20 years of Democrats denying elections as a party that nobody gave a fuck about.
How did Democrats deny the elections?
Well, there's a person named Stacey Abrams who said in a Senate hearing that the election was stolen from her.
What was she talking about?
Without Brian Kemp being the Secretary of State
and
in the state at the time.
And what did he do as Secretary of State?
Doing his job by purging the
come on.
Come on, what?
No, under Stacey Abrams under Stacey Abrams there was a purge of voter rolls next to the election that was being litigated, right? So you had a lot of people getting letters in the mail that said, you need to re-register, where a lot of people are going to miss these letters in the first place, that otherwise would have voted, that ended up getting turned away. That's why Stacey Abrams said that the election was stolen.
That was the claim.
But Stacey Abrams...
She took it to court, and it was found to be false.
And
there was no evidence to back that up.
Stacey Abrams didn't affect a plan to steal office. Pretty major difference, right? You don't have anywhere... you can bring up any of these Mickey Mouse examples. You have nowhere where Democrats are attempting to steal an election, to affect a plan, a coup, right, to stay in office. Would you agree that that's a coup? Trying to stay in office when you lost an election, that's a coup?
No.
You don't agree that's a coup? What is a coup then?
On its own. A coup would involve the military, technically. A coup would be what we saw in Egypt when Sisi took over after the Muslim Brotherhood won an election, when we were involved in taking their previously.
So you don't think staying in office, even though you lost, is a coup?
It could be, depending on how you do it. Either way, it's not right. Just slapping a label on it is just slapping a label on it, but it's not good.
Let's say Donald Trump was successful and Mike Pence rejects the electors and, says, we've determined all these alternate slate of electors. These are the real electors, and now Donald Trump's president. You don't think that's a coup?
No, a coup involves the military.
So what would you call it then?
Oh, there's a word.
It's a takeover of government somehow. Like, you don't want to call it a coup. What do you call it?
Otaku used a specific word for it. I don't remember what it was. He made a video about it. Let me look at it.
Would you agree that's a takeover of government?
Yeah, it's not good.
And you agree that Donald Trump tried to take over government?
Yeah.
Okay.
But what I said was the stage was set by lies about what Brian Kemp did. Lies, not just dishonest, completely unproven. She knew they were unproven. She lied about what Brian Kemp did.
What lie did she tell specifically?
That the voter rolls, the purging of the voter rolls, was done in a disingenuous way to help him win the election.
Okay. The voter rolls were purged before the election, though.
Yes.
That factually did happen.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And she took that real thing and lied about it.
And so because she did that, it's fine if Donald Trump tries to...
No.
Okay.
No, there's more to it. You cut me off.
Oh,
so then
sorry.
she went in front of the Senate in the Senate hearing and continued to say the election was stolen from her. The entire Democratic Party endorsed her. The next year, the DNC had a governor's panel. They had her on the governor's panel, renouncing her as the rightful governor of Georgia, endorsing her claims that the election was stolen. Then there was a debate in Atlanta in 2019 for all the presidential hopefuls, and when the question was asked about Stacey Abrams, the people that did speak up, Kamala Harris, Amy Klobuchar, I think 2 others, all backed her lies about the election being stolen from her, and everyone else stayed silent and clapped. Joe Biden was willing to make her his vice president, considering her for a long time. This is somebody that lost and denied an election, received 0 repercussion, almost got a VP spot as a result of it. And then Donald Trump denies an election. I'm supposed to act like I give a shit. I don't. This is the norm of politics I've been living my entire life.
I guess it doesn't have to be, right? Republicans consistently get away with murder and never held to any standards. So I'll give you an example. You've got the intelligence fuck-ups that lead to 9/11 under George W. Bush. You got the fucked-up response to Hurricane Katrina. You've got the housing crisis, which happens under George W. Bush, right? You've got the 2020 election. It just seems like consistently what you have with Republicans is them violating every norm or screwing up in some way that leads to the country being worse off, our institutions being weaker, and America being in a worse place over the world, and they're never held to account for it. Every time it's brought up, it's just, well, what about Stacey Abrams and that one time she said the election was stolen, who did nothing to change the results of it?
This is the partisan thing, is like Republicans say Democrats get away with murder and we're held to a high standard as well. But the things you named off were a couple natural disasters that it was just early reporting that George Bush handled Katrina poorly. He really didn't in the long run, but if you look at the same, like the Republicans make the same.
2,500 people died in Hurricane Katrina as a consequence of failure to get FEMA aid. You don't think that was bad? Like that was poor handling?
Fault?
Well, whose fault would it be?
Probably like director of FEMA at
who
the
directs,
time.
Who appoints the director of FEMA?
There was just lack of preparation. That was like we'd never had a hurricane like that in decades. Like it doesn't have to be somebody's at fault. It was probably 3-4 administrations of lack of preparation in reality. But it was blamed on George Bush like he was George Bush hates black people. Like it was silly. But if you look at like
I don't agree that George Bush hates black people, but he's the president of the United States. The buck stops at his desk.
Let me make the counter argument real quick, because Republicans say Democrats weaponize the FBI using Oppo research that they lied to the FISA courts about to go after a presidential candidate and wiretap his campaign, and nobody suffered repercussions besides a couple people getting fired. Then the Democrats, the last president, had a son who was running a pay-for-play scheme. At best, the illusion of pay-for-play, as Democrats put it, at best he was out lying to millionaires and scamming them out of tens of millions of dollars. And at worst, he was giving them pay-for-access to his dad, who was calling in to these meetings to personally talk to the people and say hello, to show he was on board. Nobody got arrested for that. Completely swept under the rug.
They were not swept under the rug. All of these had a special counsel appointment, and the special counsel didn't determine that there were any criminal activity, except for Hunter Biden, who they actually did charge with a crime. Where's the special counsel for Signalgate, right?
How just happened?
We did not have a special counsel appointed for Signalgate.
It took 3 years of that laptop being in the FBI's possession for the FBI just to admit publicly that it belonged to Hunter Biden. When the 51 experts were out saying before the election that it was Russian disinformation, the FBI had that laptop for 10 months at that point and knew it wasn't. And they stayed silent on it so they could let Joe Biden's campaign intentionally lie about it, because Joe Biden was also aware that that laptop belonged to his son. Okay. So
a special counsel was appointed to investigate that. Do you think a special counsel will be appointed for Signalgate? And do you have a problem with them not appointing a special counsel for that?
Probably. Okay, so let me finish up the point. Let me wrap up that other point real quick as well. So there was an investigation into Hunter Biden.
Just real quick, I'd like to point out, every time I talk about something Trump does, you go back to somebody else who's not president.
Yeah. Yes, I'm trying to show you your partisan bias here. How you're saying you said the Republicans get away with murder and Democrats are held to a high standard. And I said that is an extremely hyper partisan.
Just to be clear, I'm a Democrat. I don't deny I've got a partisan bias. If you don't need I don't agree that it's hyper partisan, but you can demonstrate all you want.
That's what I'm demonstrating right now, is the other side makes the exact, like, if you ever looked at the perception study gap, I can just skip all that point and just say, like, the perception studies shows that all these things you're saying are Republicans, they think exactly about you. It's a game of tribalism. One of you is holding an Xbox and the other one's holding a MacBook, or what is it, a PlayStation. You're holding a MacBook and they're holding a PC built with Microsoft on it. It's a football contest that you're in. Like, my team is constantly, the refs are constantly screwing my team over, is basically what you're saying here. And they're paid off by, the refs are paid off by the other team, basically. And it's not like that at all. It's really actually pretty fair. And at the end of the day, like, Trump is not a monster, and Joe Biden isn't either. They're both relatively trustworthy and decent people. Like, I reject this premise. Trying to frame me as the other side because I'm trying to dispel your partisanship.
So far, I haven't framed you as anything. All I've said were things that factually happened.
Yeah, I'm telling you why. It's like you said, like, flat out just now. Every time I say something about Trump, you go back to Biden, but it's not true.
Because every time I say something factually true about Trump, you want to talk about Stacey Abrams or Joe Biden Jr. or Hillary Clinton, or you keep talking about all this other stuff instead of what I'm talking about.
That's not true. We went in depth into the January 6th allegations. I'm making a second point here.
I had to bring you back there because you wanted to talk about Black Lives Matter.
Yeah, I wanted to show you the whataboutism of the argument I'm trying to make.
You engaged in the whataboutery. That was your whataboutery. You were doing the whataboutery.
Yes. I am very happy to use whataboutism here. It's a good tactic. Just pointing it out. People point out.
It's a fallacy, right?
It's not.
Okay.
It's not a fallacy.
Can we go back to talking about Trump and Signalgate, like what I originally asked?
Yeah, I mean, if you want, like, Signalgate, it's the first punch in the face of the administration, but it's a nothing burger generally. This app was approved by the CIA in 2024 under Joe Biden. It's perfectly fine to use. They probably shouldn't be deleting the messages, but slap on the wrist for...
The CIA doesn't say use Signal to discuss classified information.
They said it was a safe app to use, yes.
Do you think... Okay, so you think that Signal, it's okay to use classified information on Signal? You think that's the CIA's position?
I'm looking up the article right now.
I have no doubt that Signal might have been approved for something in government. That's fine. I get Signal, right? Your contention is that the CIA says it's okay to use Signal to discuss classified information.
Yeah, I'm looking for the article right now.
Okay. Did anybody do anything wrong other than add a journalist?
I'd say there's a records thing that I don't know enough about.
The Freedom of Information Act?
Yeah, that could be a violation, but I don't even think that's a misdemeanor. I think it's just a rule violation. So, like, it's like a slap on the wrist. So
shouldn't the Trump administration be abiding by our laws?
Yeah, I mean, people contest them all the time. Like, Obama sued the Records Act because he wanted to keep documents. Like, there was a big lawsuit for like 2 years over it. You're allowed to dispute what's yours when you leave the presidency and such. Like, Obama or Clinton had the same thing with his tapes. There was a big legal trial about if he could take some tapes with him.
Instead of going to chasing the whataboutery, I'm sorry, let me try this again. Is it your contention that the Trump administration can just violate the Freedom of Information Act and that's fine?
No, I'm not saying it's fine. I'm just saying that it's such a small penalty that it's basically just a slap on the wrist and doesn't matter that much, is what I said. It's not even, I don't even think it's a misdemeanor. I think it's just a rule violation, right?
Should we trust Trump when he hires people like, known alcoholics like Pete Hegseth, right? With no experience? Should we trust his decisions when he puts these people in charge of, life and death situations and, they just blurt out classified information to a journalist?
Yes.
Why should we trust him?
Because he was elected as the executive and he has the discretion to pick whoever he wants. And if we can trust that people that think you can hack off your wiener and become a lady are able to be served in office, then I can trust that some guy that partied a little bit in his 30s, is not a known alcoholic, but partied a little too much 10 years ago, can do the job. Like, it's help to him. And if he does a bad job, it's on Trump to say, you're making me look bad, get the fuck out. Like, I don't understand why.
So we should trust Trump. Just to be clear, we should trust Trump because the other side trusts doctors to provide gender-affirming care. That's your argument?
No, I'm saying we should trust Trump because he's the executive who was elected in a democratic election by the people, to put the people in power that he wants. That's why we trust him.
Okay, I don't trust the people he put in power. A lot of these people he put in power have known histories of alcoholism, including alcoholism on the job, have no experience in the fields they're being appointed to, and have already demonstrated incompetence mere months into his administration. Why should I trust anything that this president does?
It's a personal thing for you. Like, Republicans ask the same question about the Democrat cabinet members as well. You don't have to. Nothing's compelling you to. I'm saying just by dint of how our system works, yes, the president that we picked is allowed to pick who he wants to serve in the offices he wants, and if they do a bad job, all they're going to hurt is him.
Would you agree that any of them have done a bad job?
I don't think we've had enough time to fully tell, but this is a big oof on their part for sure. I don't think Hegseth has got the chance to spread his wings to see what we're capable of yet. I wouldn't say it's early enough to judge Trump on mostly anything. In terms of long-term damages.
No, I feel like the long-term damages are pretty apparent, right? We've elected a president who is grossly incompetent. We've got leaks coming out of the DOD with Venmo accounts and passwords found online of major players in the intelligence community. We're losing soft powers because we're getting in idiot fights with Canada and Greenland. Other countries are canceling contracts with us, like the F-35 program, because we're seen as too erratic. And now you've got countries that are apprehensive about even sharing intelligence with us because we compromise that intelligence.
Absolutely.
That doesn't seem... That's not something I should trust. That's not an... I don't understand how you can look at all that and think, yeah, I trust them.
Okay, so let me take your exact statement and apply the same whataboutism to it for Biden and show you that Republicans make the exact same claim about a president who was... his brain was deteriorated to the point where he couldn't even speak, let alone make the decisions of the presidency, that did all sorts of shit that was not legal, that he had to get rejected by the courts. The most lawless president in terms of trying to do things, interpretations of the law that were smacked down by the courts out of any president ever, including Trump. So, like, all these things that you named off, like, I could give you examples of the same shit being said by the other side. And as somebody in the middle, when I have both of these messages coming at me, of the other side is evil, stupid, incompetent.
I just want you to have a position of your own. I just want you to have... Okay, instead of deferring to, I can show you that Biden does this too. I don't give a shit. What is Donald Trump doing something wrong? Has the appointment of somebody who's unqualified to be Secretary of Defense, was that wrong? Was the appointment of somebody to be head of the intelligence community?
No.
Okay, none of that's wrong.
It is his privilege to pick who he wants. He was elected. It's his privilege. It's not wrong. It's exactly what he wants to do. And we'll see if it was a bad choice if Hegseth continues to fuck up. This is not a good start for him. Absolutely. But it's not enough time to say. Like, it's like judging a football team's performance through the whole game after watching them have 4 snaps. Like, I want at least a year before I start judging his overall performance.
To use that analogy, your players suck at the start of the game. You swap them out and you put somebody else in.
No, you don't.
Well, yeah, you do.
Your star quarterback...
You bench players all the time if they're not performing up to snuff.
No. If Peyton Manning comes out and throws an interception on the first drive, you're not benching Peyton Manning. You're saying, Peyton, don't worry about it. Get your head back in the game. Get back out there and do it right this time. That's absolutely wrong. You do not bench good players because they made an early game mistake.
If this happened under Kamala Harris administration, would you be saying the same thing?
Depending on what this is, like what specifically.
This being Signalgate. This being sharing intelligence with somebody who wasn't allowed to have it, classified information with somebody who wasn't allowed to have it, causing our allies to be apprehensive about sharing intelligence information with us.
If the exact details were the same, generally, yeah, I'd say the exact same thing probably. I think the Harris administration probably wouldn't have lied about it initially, and them lying about it initially led to them lying under oath, and now they're in a bigger set of doo-doo because they potentially lied under oath.
Just to be clear, the Trump administration's been lying under oath, right? They denied, we didn't see weapon packages, we weren't talking about any of this stuff. Then they got to a hearing when the text messages were revealed and said, hey, you said this, but the truth is this. That's lying under oath.
I don't know enough because I know that anyone that hates the Trump administration frames every single situation that Trump's side is bad, my side is morally right. So can
you just assume I know what I'm talking about?
It's getting harder and harder as we keep going.
Well, you're not being good faith is my problem.
That's what I was just saying about you is like you're saying things that aren't true and saying it's objective fact.
What have I said that was not true?
I keep trying to pick them out, and then you accuse me of whataboutism.
I'm sorry. What did I say that was not true?
I pointed a couple things out in the past. I don't remember offhand. You said multiple things that are political narratives, like Trump team lying under oath. Let's just go with that one because that was recent. We don't know yet. We don't know what was actually said in some of these reports. They're not released to us. Only the Senate has them. Right now, Ratcliffe is saying, based on the text that he's seeing, nothing classified was sent in these chats. That's the CIA director saying that nothing classified was in these chats as of this morning.
And you think that who we're striking, where we're striking, what we're striking them with, and when we're striking them is not classified?
I think it's active war plans. I don't know. I don't have the classified information in front of me to compare it and say, yes, this is, or no, this isn't. I don't know. The classification thing, like, how that works is like, Trump could say, that's declassified now, and that's it. It's declassified. That's it. It's like the president, classification does not apply to Trump. He can literally go on TV and tell you every single piece of classified information tomorrow without warning anybody in advance, and it's perfectly legal.
Yeah, I guess I just feel like our standards have completely plummeted, that we look at this massive intelligence breach and we just excuse it by saying, well, it's the president's prerogative to have whoever he wants in office, and if he says it's unclassified, it's unclassified. Like, there's just no accountability.
I've seen intelligence. This is my 7th intelligence breach since I started watching politics, and every single one has led to a slap on the wrist, if anything at all. So,
have you seen one worse than this?
Worse. I think I don't know if worse is hard to quantify, but more information being spread to less reputable sources, absolutely. When General Petraeus was emailing his fucking mistress.
General Petraeus, who was fired and convicted of a crime for that, yes.
Of a misdemeanor.
Okay.
He got a slap on the wrist.
And he was fired from his job. Will Trump fire anybody? Refer for criminal charges?
He was forcefully retired. Fired is a little tough. He got to keep his fucking pension and retire on the government dime. That's it. All right, I think he got to retire now. Here's a misdemeanor charge. Bye. See you later, guys. See you at the going away party. That's it. That's all he got.
So your example is somebody who was removed from their office and faced with a crime.
Yeah. A misdemeanor. That's what I'm telling you. Slap on the wrist. A misdemeanor for fucking giving highly classified information to your mistress. The bigger story was that his wife found out he had a mistress.
Gotcha. Would you like to just slap Waltz and Hegseth on the wrist too, or?
Yeah, I would like Waltz and Hegseth to get the same penalty that Sandy Berger got when he walked into the National Records Archive and stole information, stuffed it into his socks, and tried to sneak it out so that the Clinton administration wouldn't get in trouble for 9/11. You look at what Sandy Berger got, and that's
I don't know anything about this. What happened?
Clinton pardoned him. I'm pretty sure.
So you would like Trump to pardon Hegseth and Waltz?
No, I mean, like, at the end of the day, he didn't get in any trouble for it.
Okay, so you would like Hegseth and Waltz to not get in any trouble?
Yeah, I don't think... Well, at the end of the day, there's a different reason for that. Because I don't like J.D. Vance's foreign policy. And if you read those texts, Hegseth and Waltz are pushing for the interventionist, stay in Ukraine, push back against Russia, blah, blah, blah strategy, and placating their hate for Europe. So they're good at, like, taking the things Trump likes to hear and then working the adult foreign policy into it in a way that he accepts it. So if you get rid of them, you have J.D. Vance in there with less people on Marco Rubio's interventionist side in Trump's ear. The guy closest to Trump is now going to be an isolationist twat. So I don't want the isolationist twat to go... he's Rebel Wormtongue.
Well, I mean, the isolationist twat is kind of the Donald Trump. Like, he's kind of behaving like an isolationist president, right?
Absolutely. Going into Gaza?
Well, okay, yeah, fair point. What I'm referring to mostly is like us pissing off our allies and tariffing everybody such that we don't trade with them, they don't share intelligence with us, they cancel contracts with us, they issue travel warnings so that nobody comes here. You know, a lot of this stuff seems like Donald Trump doesn't want to behave like a world leader. He just wants America to be his own exclusive country club. And I don't know... You know, well, let me just ask you, what do you think of his foreign policy so far? Because we've got this major fuck up. All this other stuff I would lift has been what I would describe as terrible mistakes that have just eroded our soft power that we've been building up since World War II. What do you grade him on in this?
Okay, so it's different because when you look at right wing and left wing policies, the left wing are their desire for soft power is in Europe. The right wing, their desire for soft power is in the Middle East. So all these arguments that you're making about Trump eroding our soft power in Europe are right, but they're similar to what Biden did with our soft power in Saudi Arabia by making them a pariah in the Middle East. And then it ended up biting him in the ass when he had to go back to OPEC. He sent Blinken over there like almost a dozen times, begging them to up their oil supply and got a no each time, and basically the middle finger a couple times too. So like that same argument kind of to the Republicans, the soft power initiative, the world peace initiative, the moving forward is in the Middle East, and Trump wants to advance the Abraham Accords in that regard. Now, he is somewhat diminishing our soft power in Europe. It's hard to deny that argument for sure. But at the end of the day, what he's saying about it is something generally that has American support. If there's a war in Europe, they should be the front line. They should be the ones paying the money. And he was correct in that most of that money they're giving to the Ukraine is coming back. Right now, Europe is spending more money a year on Russian natural gas and oil than they are on funding the Ukraine war. And if they want to really get fucking serious, then Trump has to put this new tariff onto Russian oil that's going to hurt Europe's oil imports unless they come to the United States for more, because the United States went from number 3 to number 1 in terms of their oil exporters since the war started. But they're still giving Russia the money they need to fight Ukraine. So they need to get fucking serious to a degree that will actually cause Russia to lose the war. So I think Trump is correct in that measure, and these are things he's talked about. He talked about this when he put sanctions on the Nord Stream 2 pipeline in his first term, and Germany was laughing at him at a UN meeting for it. He's saying Russia's a big threat, I'm sanctioning this pipeline, and you guys need to decouple your economy from Russia, especially the energy sector, and they laughed at him, and now we're in this situation. So technically he was correct on that, and I think the soft power there is more just frustration with Europe kind of being assholes to us.
I guess I just don't see it when, well, I don't live in to be fair, I think I operate a different media environment than you do. I don't get a lot of my news off Twitter. Not saying that you do, but I mean, it's where I see these talking points a lot. Europe, our European allies belonging to NATO, shed blood, after 9/11, responding to our invocation of Article 5. They have shown up to our call, right? And they have given us aid and intelligence. They are part of communities that share intelligence with us, and it seems like what we're doing is looking at all they've sacrificed, all they've done, and saying, well, we're paying a lot. By the way, we're selling them stuff. It's not like it's a gift. We sell them military equipment. And then we say things like, we're going to just annex Greenland and military action's not off the table. Or we're just going to annex the Panama Canal, military action's not off the table. This is might makes right as something of a political philosophy that doesn't do us any good except distance us from the most powerful countries in the world with the best human rights records in the world and the largest economies in the world. We shouldn't want to isolate ourselves from our European friends. Our European friends have shed sweat, blood, and tears to be our partners and allies since the collapse of the Soviet Union and since World War II. Like, we've built up this great system, for example, like a coalition to fight ISIS. Our European brothers and sisters sacrificed much in that endeavor, as did, unfortunately, our Iraqi and Kurdish brothers and sisters, who Trump kind of just dismissed when he gave the green light to Turkey to invade Syria. Everything Trump seems to do, I don't want to say everything, but Trump's actions on the world stage, he does not behave like a superpower. He behaves like a wannabe dictator with a military, and that should be frightening to you, at least as it is to me. Certainly, you must have an issue with Trump saying, "Let's build condominiums in Gaza or annex Greenland against their will."
I did a talk with Tiberius and Socrates TV. I am 100% on board with Trump.
Wait, Tiberius D?
Yeah,
he's still around.
He doesn't stream anymore. He's just a buddy, and he pops into my private Discord, and we chat politics one-on-one.
Well, tell him not be a stranger to me. I ain't talked to him in forever.
Yeah, he doesn't want to do the yelling online anymore, but he loves talking politics, and I do too, so we hang out, but not really online much. But yeah, he was part of that. I'm 100% up for going into Gaza. 100% for going into Gaza. I think it's the best fucking path forward for all that shit. and it would also reinvent our interventionist strategy to get rid of the isolationist main talking point of what does the U.S. get out of this? Well, Trump's finding a way to make it profitable for us. So there's your talking point out the window. Boots on the ground. Obama solved that 20 years ago with drones. So pretty much all the isolationist talking points, besides it's none of our business, which shut the fuck up, those are all off the table. So I'm super happy to see what Gaza looks like.
So you would be fine with the U.S. putting boots on the ground in Gaza, forcing Palestinians out and building condominiums?
We would not have to put boots on the ground. So
I thought you
there's
said
a lot
you
of
would be fine with boots on the ground.
No. That's something I said that Obama solved 20 years ago. As our technology advanced, we saw the transition in our military from boots on the ground to drone tech. And now when we're in conflicts, the amount of troops that we use is a fraction of what it was 20, 30, 40, 50 years ago because of advances in technology.
Sure.
To
go to Gaza, though.
We wouldn't need to. So right now, we're surrounded on 3 sides by Israel in Gaza. Israel is holding the Philadelphia corridor, which is a 20-mile strip between Egypt and the southern part of Rafah. And it's just basically a flat land that they hold, and it's where the 11 tunnels coming from the mountains in Egypt were destroyed coming through. So there's literally no way besides sea that any munitions can come into Gaza.
Yeah, I guess my issue is it's not our land, right? It's not ours. It belongs to the Palestinian people.
It doesn't. It technically belongs to Israel.
What does this technically mean?
Okay, so
Gaza does not belong to Israel. I don't know why you say that.
That land belonged, it was under, but prior to Israel winning a war in 1949, that land belonged to and was under the jurisdiction of Egypt. They had it under martial law for decades. They got it, and they were holding it from the Byzantine Empire. The land that Israel was in was purchased from the EU. So that land, Gaza there, that strip, belonged to Egypt at the time. Then Egypt attacked Israel. Israel forced them back, forced them out of Gaza as well, and started occupying the land. Just based on the rules of war, that land now becomes part of their territory.
What Israel stopped occupying Gaza in 2006.
Yes, because they never went the full route of nationalizing that land because of pressure on the world stage, of them being monsters and blah, blah, blah. But they had every right, like China, Russia, and the United States all would have taken that shit over and made that part of their country day one. And nobody would have said shit about it because it's a small country, doesn't have nukes, not a superpower, and they did some shit.
Israel
but, you know,
nukes, by the way.
Oh, but not at the time, not in 1949.
Okay, yeah, not in 1949. So you would be fine with going in, forcing out all the Palestinians?
No.
Just you think that would make everything... Well, that's what Trump said, right? Palestinians wouldn't be allowed to... Well, he said that.
Yeah, he said that night one that was dialed back, and he said that they were going to... So what the administration said is they're no longer going to be forcing anybody out. This is the demands made by Saudi Arabia after night one, after a bit of negotiation. They're no longer going to be forcing everybody out, and they're no longer going to not allow Palestinians back in after the reconstruction. They're basically going to be temporarily moved off the land for faster reconstruction and allowed back in as long as they aren't terrorists, basically, which is pretty much all the women, children, and men above 35 are just going to come right back in, and the rest are going to have to probably be vetted.
Okay, this just seems like textbook ethnic cleansing to me, but I guess I'm sorry?
They're just moving them to reconstruct the area.
Ethnic cleansing is moving people. It's moving people out of their area based on their ethnicity. Yeah,
but they have no rights. Essentially, they're squatters, though, based on how the rules of war work. That shit.
Palestinian Arabs have lived there for generations.
I know, but Israel,
how can you be squatters?
Because of the legal rights, like the property rights of the land. Like, so you can live somewhere for generations. If your family owns a house, but you don't pay the property tax, you know, you can say, my family's lived here for generations, but the government's like, yeah, but you haven't paid property tax, so we're seizing your property.
I don't believe any international body recognizes Israel's right to own Gaza, or the West Bank for that matter, which is another issue for their occupation and the building of settlements. Israel's been soundly condemned because they don't have a right to this land, and yet they keep taking it by conquest.
That's the contention. That's the big argument that's been going on for 70 years, that if we had an answer to it, it'd probably be done already. But you're right. We just addressed both sides of this argument that hasn't been solved yet. One side saying they have the right to that land, it's basically theirs, and that's how Oslo worked. When they came to the United States and made a deal, Oslo was Israel agreeing to let Gaza attempt self-governance under the supervision of Israel.
My concern, I know what Oslo is, I'm sorry, but my concern is that we're not going to solve this if we just go in to build condominiums, right, and we turn Gaza into another Trump hotel location, right? Like, we need an actual real solution that ensures another October 7th doesn't happen and another 60,000 Palestinians are not killed by getting carpet bombed, all over Gaza. We need some answer to this question that has not been resolved for generations, and Donald Trump is throwing fuel on the fire. He's not solving it. He's telling people that, we're going to kick you out of your land, even if they walk that back. The damage is already done. It's out there. Even telling people we're going to kick you out of your land so we can build condos, that's just not a real foreign policy.
That's not his plan, though. Like, that's not what he even said that night. He never directly said he was going to forcefully remove people. That's some of Trump's vague rhetoric that people start reading the tea leaves for and argue over. And then you go to his press secretary, and that's who's the one that clarifies his statements. And that's exactly what she did. I thought she did a fantastic job at it and helped me understand a little more, especially after Saudi Arabia pushed back. They were our number one partner in this. They're going to make demands, and, negotiations work like that. You start all the way up here, and the other side starts all the way up here, and you gradually work your way down to the V, I don't see it as a big problem that he came out of the gate saying something that was rejected in several ways, and then he said, we're going to change it after negotiation. That's just kind of normal politics. That's how bills are made. Like, if you look at the Senate when they were trying to pass an immigration bill, the House came out with H.R. 2, the Senate came out with their bill. Both of them were wish lists for the side that was in charge of that House, and then they come together and find something in the middle. Like, negotiations work like that. Trump came out the gates a little too strong, and people reacted poorly, and he dialed it back. I don't know. I just don't see anything that wrong. It's a little ham-fisted. It's ham-fisted.
I think it's wrong because it's not realistic. It's likely to inflame tensions in an area where we've seen terrorism, and it's just not a real foreign policy. Like, certainly there's not going to be condominiums built in Gaza. It does nothing except make us look bad, alienate us from our allies, and make us look like we're endorsing ethnic cleansing. This isn't tactical negotiation. It's just stupidity masquerading as a foreign policy.
I just reject the fact that anyone cares about the definition. If ethnic cleansing is a bloodless removal of people from contested land,
it has not been bloodless. 60,000 Palestinians are dead.
But it can be hypothetically. That I don't think people are going to accept that definition.
Okay, but it's not in this case. 60,000 Palestinians are dead, and the only reason you'd be moving them out to rebuild.
They're not dead from Trump's plan, correct? They're dead from the war.
Okay. Yes.
So Trump's plan has nothing to do with the 60,000 people that Israel's killed, 25,000 roughly being Hamas.
No, it has a lot to do with it. It's in the context of 60,000 people being killed in Gaza. He doesn't have a plan to rebuild Gaza in a vacuum. This plan is because there's a war there that killed 60,000 people.
No, we're talking about Trump's Gaza plan, and you're talking about the 60,000 people that Israel's killed in a war. Like, Trump's plan is independent of Israel. Israel's not having input. It's going to be Trump and the Arab nations. Israel is out of the equation.
Okay.
I don't like, and also I also think people reject the premise of ethnic cleansing or anything really being wrong on the part of Israel. If you look at Poland, something like 75% of people want Israel to finish Hamas before they're done with the war. They want them to finish the job as it's been put in issue Poland.
I want them to finish Hamas. I don't want it at any means necessary. We need to start considering the rights of the Palestinian people still alive in Gaza and their needs. Israel's been in violation of a ceasefire they agreed to months ago and blocking humanitarian aid. Yes, they have. They've continued strikes.
That ceasefire...
I'll send you something after this if you'd like, but they have.
That ceasefire was extended by Israel 18 days past its ending date so they could get one more batch of hostages out. That ceasefire was supposed to be done like a month and a half ago. And the only reason it kept going was because Israel extended it. Egypt right now, after March 4th, has been working on renegotiating step 2 of the ceasefire deal that never happened, because Hamas strangled a 9-year-old and paraded them through the streets. At the same time, the 6 bombs they placed on buses in Israel were supposed to go off like 3 weeks ago. So that's kind of why the ceasefire talks stopped. It was because they strangled a fucking 9-year-old and paraded him through the streets and tried to blow up hundreds of civilians inside Israel.
Okay. I don't know anything about this, but okay, I'll take your word for it.
Yeah, man, it was the day that they got the bodies back of the 2 children and the wrong woman that was supposed to be the mother of those 2 children.
I remember that. I don't remember the
same day.
Okay.
They paraded all those coffins through the streets, including a baby's coffin that you could tell it was a baby's coffin, that they were parading through the cheering streets. And at the same time, the night before, Israeli intelligence, 2 buses had been blown up in the parking lot, and then they searched all the buses in Israel and found 4 more bombs that were supposed to go off at 8 a.m. the next day, not 8 p.m. that night when they went off.
You get we're shifting gears?
I do. I'm just saying, like,
I'm going to admit fully I don't know everything about this topic. So if you're saying
ethnic cleansing, I don't think the public buys that.
Removing people from their homes is ethnic cleansing.
Okay, well, most of their homes have tunnel entrances in them. So, at some point, you're aiding and abetting the terrorist group that 70% of your country supports in Poland, and you're somewhat culpable for it, especially if you're out in the fucking streets cheering for coffin. At some point, it's on them.
Just to be clear, 80% of that country that supports them are like under the age of 18, because something like 60% of the country is like... I was saying just that 80% number is like a country comprised of like 60%, 70% people under the age of 18, because Gaza's a place of densely populated kids, essentially, just as a consequence of years of warfare. But like I said... Well, yeah, okay. Like I said, you said there were 2 things... You actually said that we had 3 top issues, but I think you only listed 2 of them. One was law enforcement. I think the other was economy.
Israel's the third one, actually.
Oh, Israel's the third one?
Yeah, I just turned on Warnock and Ossoff a couple of weeks ago because they voted to stop selling weapons to Israel.
You really think Israel needs more weapons?
I think that they're our ally, and I don't like the message it sends.
What about all our other allies? Didn't we just gloss over that?
Yeah, but I think Hamas is committing daily war crimes, and Israel is being blamed for them without evidence. Biden's State Department took all of those NGOs' accusations of war crimes and investigated all of them and found no proof that they were true.
I'm getting whiplash here. Russia's committing daily war crimes, and like we're getting okay.
Fire and fury onto Russia.
Well, I'd like to see that fire. Where's the fire? What has Trump done? Right, except getting a slap fight with Zelensky in the Oval Office, right? That's
embarrassing.
What we were
talking about earlier. Right now, he's talking about sanctioning Russia's oil. But if he does that, that's going to hurt the fucking EU. And
I'll believe it when I see it.
The reason why he hasn't done that yet is because the EU has not decoupled their economy from Russia.
I guess I'll believe it when I see it. Trump's been harsher on Ukraine than he's been on Russia so far. That's my concern. But if you're worried about the signal it sends to our allies, I don't understand why Israel as our ally gets the weapon shipments, but Ukraine as our ally, did you even say thank you? And we're going to cut off intelligence sharing and no more weapons except for defensive ones. There's just like a cascading list of things that it seems like we have a double standard here, and it doesn't make sense.
Yeah, Zelensky, I've never seen Bibi Netanyahu go into the office and fucking pick a fight with the vice president, though. So maybe that's why that didn't happen.
How did Zelensky pick the fight?
The press conference was over. They were about to go to the signing. J.D. Vance made a statement basically knocking the Biden administration and talking up the Trump administration. And Zelensky's like, let me ask you a question, and basically calls him out. He says, what policy are you guys doing? What are you doing? And what did Biden do wrong, essentially? He legitimately called out his statement. Like, I was watching it like, what the fuck are you doing? Just take the win. They're about to sign the deal and feed you lunch. There should have been a translator in the room, absolutely, but Zelensky picked that fight. So that's Vance didn't handle it properly, and then when Trump turned into a baby, it was all over, and it led to a week of Trump being a baby. But they're back on board now. So
that's not how I remember it, but I'd have to go look it up again or watch it again to refresh, and I'm already ready to move past this. If you're content, I'll go and look at it later, and we can talk about it more in depth.
No, it's 6 news cycles ago. Yeah, there's already other shit going on. I would say though, stick on the signal chat thing. Do not get distracted by Trump pretending to be a dictator for the 900th time. It's his way of pulling the rug out of the bad media cycle. That signal chat is the worst body blow to the presidential administration.
Back up. Trump pretending to be a dictator is a body blow to the media? Could you
No.
elaborate on that?
Pretending to be a dictator is the well he goes back to when he wants to change the news cycle off of something actually damaging. If you look at polling, even like 70% of Republicans say this signal chat thing is a big deal and very bad. Nobody is happy about it. So he went out there, he did the Trump thing and said some stupid shit about a third term that he doesn't mean. Obviously, he's just sucking up oxygen to take the news cycle off of the actual bad thing.
Well, I'm not sure that he doesn't mean that. He outright said he wasn't kidding, and Donald Trump has behaved in such a way that the rule of law is more like a suggestion to him. I'm not sure I would agree with that characterization. He's the president of the United States. He shouldn't be talking like that.
He shouldn't be, and it's not responsible, but I'm telling you, that's what he's doing right now. That's his tactic. Is this signal chat was the first real kick in the dick for the administration. If you look at polling on it, man, everybody's there.
The airline collision was the first kick in the dick. But
no, nobody blamed him for that.
A lot of people blame him for that. Yes, he fired
when that panned out, dude, that made the Republicans look better.
I don't think blaming the pilot for being a woman made the Republicans look better.
No, that didn't particularly, but when the whole situation panned out and we found out about the second test being added by the Obama administration in 2014, and then the lawsuits of them not hiring up to 1,000 people because they were discriminating against them being white, when all those things started rolling out, Republicans won that news cycle.
Okay. The accident where, oh man, this is the brilliance of the Trump administration, is they can overload the media cycle with so many different things, and there's never really just one thing you can grab onto. The issue with the FAA thing was that there was a hiring freeze put on immediately that the OPM later had to walk back, and the FAA was already suffering from staffing shortages, and rather than using the moment to unify the country, Donald Trump divided the country by saying, well, this is actually the fault of the pilot because she's a woman. She's a DEI pick, right? And that's just, it's not something a president of the United States should be doing or saying, and it's kind of gross that nobody ever holds him accountable for that.
Why shouldn't the president address DEI policy?
Well, one, DEI policies are good, but two, DEI policies had nothing to do with the airline disaster. That was a consequence of staffing shortages at the FAA.
No, that was not proven. That was a guess. And then when we actually found out the reason why the staffing shortages exist is because of DEI policies that discriminated up to potentially 1,000 hires in the last decade because they were white.
What is this DEI policy? The DEI policy in your head says don't hire people because they're white?
The DEI policy was set up to have a test. This test specifically gave you extra points if you failed science, if you never took a pilot test and passed it, and certain things that if you start to look at the data on these things are things that are predominantly higher in non-white communities. So they basically made a test that picked out non-white people and made them more eligible for hire. This has already been settled in a lawsuit. Somebody won money from the FAA for discrimination because of this test.
Okay, so when did this happen?
2014 it was implemented.
So then it didn't. Okay, 2014 it was implemented. When did they sue and when?
I think the first lawsuit was in 2015. Let me look.
And this policy was still in place even though there was a lawsuit over it as discriminatory?
Yes, it was.
Can you send me something on this? Because this seems almost fantastical. This isn't DEI. Firstly, DEI policies are a good thing. We can elaborate on that or get into that if you want. But this is a wag the dog situation because the DEI policy in question doesn't have anything to do with the FAA shortage. That was a consequence of hiring freeze, right? And the immediate firing of air traffic. Well, we've got a long history. Yes, it is. The OPM had to walk back the memo. It was the first thing he did.
But it's not proven that the hiring freeze resulted in this crash.
There's never going to be any one thing that results in it. But the fact that the FAA was short-staffed and Donald Trump doesn't look at that and say, we're going to solve problems within the FAA. He instead says, we're going to blame women, the woman who's the pilot, who's not a service member, by the way, a dead service member. We're going to shit on her grave before the body's even cold and say it's because a woman was the pilot. You don't see an issue with that?
That's not what DEI means. First of all, you're taking more than he said.
Tell me what Trump meant by DEI.
I did already. The DEI policy that was put in place was the reason this was understaffed. Over 1,000 air traffic controllers were passed over in a discriminatory manner because of their race. So the reason why they didn't have the staff in the first place was this policy. I could give you an actual Justice Warrior bit, a very long video, and I could send you as well. One of the men was not white, actually. He was Native American that was discriminated against.
Is this just an affirmative action policy that you're describing?
Essentially what DEI is.
I'm trying to look. Yeah, I understand that. I'm trying to like find the specific policy that you're describing, the test.
I can send you the video from Sean. I don't know if you've ever spoken with him.
Yes, I've spoken. I've been on stage with him. Yes, I've spoken to Sean. I'm looking for the test itself. No shade to Sean. I don't necessarily trust his interpretation of the facts. There's several reasons for that, but I'd rather just look at the test myself and read about it myself.
I do not have that for you offhand. I wasn't prepared to go down this route. I'm still looking for that.
That's fine. If you're not prepared, that's fine. That's totally cool. I don't. This is a segue. This is why I said this is the problem with Trump. He can overload the media space with so much nonsense. You have to go in a lot of different directions to start addressing it. What was it we were talking about before this?
I don't remember.
Oh, it was the economy, right? I asked you like the three things. One of them was the economy, right?
Yeah.
Did you see that our GDP declined to like 0.4%?
That was a prediction by one Fed out of Atlanta, which I'm from Georgia. So that one was local for me. And I think they've already gone back on that. It's already in the positives.
In like I
saw that prediction.
It was 0.4%. I don't know. I saw the prediction. It's going to be like negative 3% or something like that. The data we do have shows it's at 4%. I'm sorry, 0.4% growth, right? Which is much, much lower than it was under the last term of Biden's administration or any terms before that. In fact, I think it's been the lowest since we've had since COVID.
No. Biden had in 2024, he had a quarter that lost. It was a negative quarter. It was almost two. I want to say he had a pseudo recession because he almost, the numbers got revised, so it wasn't 2 quarters back to back. But in 2023, it was initially reported he was in a recession because he had 2 back-to-back losing quarters. One of them got revised though. Yeah,
I do remember that. I do remember that. I'm sorry. My question. I was using this to lay down some groundwork on a question here about Trump's erratic policies when it comes to tariff, which can serve a legitimate protection-based purpose in the economy. Tariffs have use. Tariffs have value. I understand that, right? Trump's not using this like it's a scalpel, right? He's shotgun blasting this at all of our allies in the face, and it's resulting in retaliatory tariffs that have tanked the stock market, right? I think the S&P showed its like biggest, day-end decline since the year started, and our GDP growth has plummeted. How much of this do you hold Trump accountable for?
That's a tough one, man, because like usually I would give the president 6 to 9 months. I think I gave Biden.
Oh, just to be clear, I found that Atlanta Fed thing. It's negative 3.7%.
Yeah, I usually give the president about 6 to 9 months, but the Trump administration's different. They hit the ground rolling so hard and fast with so many things that like I'd say it's fairer for them in particular to judge them sooner than I would judge a different administration. Because usually it takes like a couple of months to get all your people in place and then all their people in place and get all your initial policies rolled out. And it seems like the Trump team was doing all that in warp speed so they could get it done out of the way and on to the next thing. So I think
Steve Bannon has a term for this, like it's a media strategy.
Yeah. But it's true, but it's also, I think that they only have one term, and the strategies Trump's trying to do economically with tariffing and upping U.S. sales to see more U.S. money circulating that doesn't have to come back through third-party investment into bonds where it's actually going into the pockets of the workers and whatnot. I think that takes a couple of years to materialize, and I don't think it's going to be in time for the midterms. I think he's going to get shellacked on the economy.
God willing. He said he'd have prices down day one, and now he's saying, I don't know if you saw this quote the other day, referring to automobile industries. He basically said, I don't really care if prices get raised on Americans, because that just means you're going to buy more American products.
No, that's not what he said. He said he doesn't care if foreign cars raise their prices.
Yes, on Americans, yes.
Yeah.
Because it would encourage you to buy American, yes.
Yes, I don't care if they raise their prices as a result of tariffs. Tariffs are going to push their prices up anyway. I don't give a shit. They're going to buy American or they're going to drop their tariffs. Every one of these tariffs, except for the Canada one, which I think there's something more going on there we don't know yet. We don't have the insider intel. But every other one of these has had an off-ramp, including the enhanced tariffs to China. He said he would drop those if they cooperated in selling TikTok.
Well,
he
no.
threatened Colombia, and then he dropped the tariffs to Colombia within that day when they complied. He threatened Mexico.
I'm sorry.
I'm just trying to say, like, every one of these besides Canada has had some sort of off-ramp.
I'm not necessarily sure I agree. It's actually been a complaint of a lot of the people who have been sent to negotiate on behalf of these countries is they're not really clear what Trump actually wants. Like, he kind of gives vague gestures to, like, getting your fentanyl under control or something like that, but there's never really any hard target set. It just seems like he's trying to institute tariffs as a form of soft, or I guess it'd be hard power, right? In fact, he's even stated like it was to leverage, other countries. I think at one point he said it was like to leverage countries like Greenland. Like, I don't even know if we placed tariffs on Greenland, but at one point I think he makes allusions to like acquiring Greenland through the use of tariffs, right? He doesn't seem to have a strategy for this. I don't know why you say he does. A lot of the complaints from the people negotiating with the Trump administration is that they don't know exactly what they're supposed to be doing to stave off the tariffs. If in fact, one of these issues, I'll even add on to this, Australia and Britain were complaining that they were being hit with tariffs where they have a trade surplus with the United States, meaning they buy more products from the U.S. than they ship over.
Yeah, Trump has addressed that. He's flat out said that we're not going to put these tariffs on Australia because they're one of the few countries we have a surplus with in a press conference like 2 weeks ago.
2 weeks ago? Because last I heard he was, because this is like recent news, where we're at Liberation Day, he's supposed to be putting tariffs on every country.
Only the tariffs that are coming out are the reciprocal tariffs that come from his executive order. Lutnick was talking about this the other day and what the rollout's going to be for it. There's a press conference he did.
Yeah.
Secretary of Commerce. And the countries that we have a trade deficit with, or I can't remember the other word right now, that we are not going to be slapping a tariff on them. So with Mexico, though, it was very apparent what he wanted with Mexico. He wanted to reinstitute the migrant protection protocols that Mexico does not like because it takes non-Mexican nationals that are in our country illegally and ships them to Mexico to deal with. And they didn't want that shit. So they told him no. And what they wanted when they offered to the Biden administration was, if you pay us $20 billion, we will build a wall on our southern border. Basically, we're going to build a wall and you're going to pay for it, is what Mexico said to us. Trump got into office and he said, fuck that shit, threw that contract out and said, you're going to take care of your border security on your own dime and we're going to tariff you. And it has been working to some degree. I think there's still more to it. We don't have these like back end conversations. So like, you have to speculate to some degree, and I hate doing that.
Well, we can read what media reports have come out. For the Mexico thing, for example, like Trump backed off the tariffs the first time because Scheinbaum basically said, we're going to implement this thing that we'd already told the Biden administration we were going to do. Something that had been in the plan since like November of last year.
That's what Canada did too. So they just threw a fucking fentanyl czar into their already set up plans and made Trump happy. Yeah, I saw that.
Well, I guess this is my issue, is this isn't how you're supposed to negotiate with your allies, right? That we're going to economically penalize you unless you do what we want, and what we want isn't exactly clearly defined either. Scheinbaum didn't even give anything new, I think was the issue. Like, not only did we ruin our relationship with Mexico and ruin trade with Mexico, we got nothing really out of it that we hadn't already gotten. When it comes to our economy, you've got, we've got 60,000 federal workers that have been axed as a consequence of DOGE, who were actually in limbo because several judges are like, hey, you have to follow the law. You can't just fire these people.
Most of those cases, DOGE have won already. There's still a few that are in.
Okay, well, some of them, they're in limbo, right? I understand. Not all of them are getting reinstated. Some of them are in limbo. You've got, GDP decline to 0.4%, possibly going as low as negative 3.7%, according to the Atlanta Fed. You've got other countries doing retaliatory tariffs on us. You've got Canada, taking off American liquor from their shelves and their tourists no longer visiting it. You got countries doing travel restrictions on us when tourism accounts for several $1 trillion in our GDP. He's not making our economy better. He's just not.
I mean, there's arguments that tariffs are going to bring more manufacturing jobs, and though you lose net jobs in the long run, you're going to have more manufacturing here. And this whole globalization of our economy and all these trade things that we're doing is actually shipping out our good-paying jobs to other countries as like a favor to help build them up, and we've done it so much that we've worn our own economy thin, and now we're seeing an 82% service job, which is like 30% higher than where we were 25 years ago. It's like a little bit maybe that the people are saying, yeah, no, I kind of agree with this.
Well,
I'm with you. I don't.
You know what?
I'm with you on all this. I'm with you on. I don't like treating our allies this way. I don't like the being a dick to our closest allies.
Well, it's more than that. Don't we? I'm sorry. It seems weird that I'm on the left and I'm like, hey, free markets work. Free markets promote democracy. Free markets promote trade. Free markets grow the standard of living for all parties involved. Free markets grant stability in ways tariffs just don't. Tariffs have just made us completely unstable. And free markets would do us wonders. And I'm sorry, a lot of these manufacturing jobs that end up getting exported, one, they're not coming back. They're old economy jobs. And two, it results in higher prices for Americans. Like, Trump promised day one he was going to bring prices down. Not only have prices not gone down, they've shot up because of his policies. And bringing manufacturing jobs back here isn't going to bring those prices down. It's going to make everything cost more because Americans work for more.
They are. It is going to make things cost more, absolutely, but it also will bring back manufacturing jobs, and that can be shown. When he was threatening to put tariffs on Canada for food, the number 2 food manufacturer in Canada said they would have to move all their plants to the United States because they wouldn't be able to afford to manufacture and export into the United States, where a majority of their sales go. So it would actually bring that back, and the threat of tariffs is bringing that back. But that's a whole, I don't know, besides, what was the first thing you said?
Well, your thing was the economy, right? That's why we were talking about it.
Oh, yeah. I don't
by the way, real quick, do you prefer to be called by your name, or is that privileged information? Okay.
No, I don't give a shit.
You just call me LSP, if that's all right.
Yeah. I don't give a shit. But I don't know. I'm really trying to have like a fair scale that I can judge Trump and Biden the exact same way. I think I'm pretty close to it. Everyone on the right thinks I'm a left winger and thinks I'm a leftist and blah blah blah, and I hate Trump. Then everyone on the left thinks I'm a Trump lover and I hate democracy and blah blah blah. I promise
you, I don't concern myself with that. My concern is what's your long-term vision for the country, and are we moving closer to it?
What you said there, though, I just want to kind of meta pick apart one of your points. You said, I'm pro-free market and I don't like tariffs. I don't think tariffs are necessarily anti-free market as much as they're a tool of a country that wants to get things done in the same way.
Like I said, tariffs can serve a legitimate purpose. I don't disagree with that. In fact, a lot of countries have quotas. They have rate quotas. Like, they're only going to kick in the tariffs like after like a certain amount of products have been shipped in, such that it threatens their economy in some way. Yeah. I'm not necessarily against tariffs. I'm just against this use of tariffs. These are not an intelligent use of tariffs.
I don't know enough about economics to say yes or no. It could work. It could not.
I used to teach economics.
Howard Lutnick seems to think it's going to work, but also he seems like a giant scumbag. So I don't know. He was the guy that as soon as 500 people in his business died in 9/11, he canceled their pensions and pay immediately, so the families couldn't get anything from them and shit like that. He's a massive scumbag.
Remember what I said earlier? My concern isn't how people perceive you necessarily. I don't really care about that. I don't know you. Well, respectfully, I don't know you.
I'm just saying, I don't like the guy outside of his economic knowledge. That's all.
Right.
I'm not endorsing him as a person. That's what I'm trying to say.
My concern is, where do we go in the future? So if I had to like envision this, if I'm a true American exceptionalist, right? I want America to be the best version of itself that it can be. And we only get there if we embrace markets that serve the people's interests, which are generally freer markets. I'm going to say totally free. I'm not like a complete anarchist, but freer markets, right? Such that people can engage in the industry they want to, such that people have health care, such that poverty is eliminated. When I look at where we're at now with not only with Trump, but with the way the Republican Party behaves, we're not getting to a future that's stable, right? Can you name one thing the Republican Party has done to advance my healthcare interests or anybody's healthcare interests? Because they rolled back the Medicare negotiation thing and the insulin cap. You saw that, right? So now you're paying more for drugs.
Well, it's a price fix. Price fixes end up usually leading to scarcity more than they do actually bringing down prices generally.
But it results in people having to pay more for medication they need that is life-saving. Yeah, you don't see an issue with that?
To a degree, yeah, but at the end of the day, if the long-term result is it ends up hurting more people than it's helping, then I see an issue with implementing it as well.
That is the long-term result. So, like things like cutting the consumer, fixes? No, cutting or capping. Oh yeah, price fixing, capping the cost of insulin, right? Mm-hmm. Getting rid of that cap so that yes. So well, I don't think it has yet, but that just seems like an issue you would resolve by subsidizing your healthcare industry in some way or doing it even more. But it's not. It's not. Well, it's not just that. It's gutting the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, right? It's getting rid of the expanded child tax credit. It's doing all these things that doesn't make us more economically secure. And like I said, play the long game. Where do you want America? Pretend you're president. What are your priorities? America 100 years from now, does everybody have healthcare?
I don't know, but I just want to address, like you're saying, like all these things that they're cutting are all like cutting regulation, cutting the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, redoing tort laws so that payouts aren't as big, things of that nature. That is all pro-free market, pro-business stuff that makes the economy move faster. Like, if you're against tariffs because they interrupt the economy,
I'm not dogmatic.
Let me tell you about,
just to be clear.
Let me tell you about climate regulation. That shit really fucks the economy up, and say it's one of the biggest things that led to inflation.
Fair. Let's go 100 years in the future then. Is our climate breathable? Is our energy efficient? What are Republicans doing to make it that way?
I mean, if we take the RCP 8.5 scenario that already has been long since shown is not even close to the observable scenario in the ICC report. If we even take that, we're going like, what, 4 inches higher of oceans, and people that live on the beach have to move inland a bit. That's about it. We're not, like, it's not
that's
like
a massive disrupt. The majority of population on planet Earth lives near the ocean. That's pretty massive.
It's mostly Asian countries.
Well, we should be concerned with that because it's going to cause a mass refugee crisis that we're going to be obligated to help with. That's what I'm saying. Like, what are Republicans doing to ensure our environment is cleaner? What are Republicans doing to make sure our energy is more efficient and renewable?
Well, I mean, if you want to take a look at that, I'd say the Republicans right now have the #1 EV car salesperson as a high-ranked official in their office pushing for climate change in driving, which is the #1 emitter of carbon emissions, I think. So, like, I'd say, the fact that Mark Kelly sold his EV vehicle for a gas-guzzling SUV, I'd say the Republicans right now are kind of leading the climate change charge a little bit, wouldn't you?
No, I wouldn't. I'd say it's a political stunt.
I know, I'm being silly.
Okay. I don't know how to respond to silly and facetious. I was asking I'm legitimately asking because every time I look at I could say what Democrats have done. We got the Clean Air Act. We got the Clean Water Act. We got different Democratic states that pass their own carbon taxes. We've got regulations. We got fuel economy standards being upped by the Obama administration so that you go further on a gallon of gas than you ever did before. I can look at things Democrats have done and say, this makes our environment cleaner. This makes our vehicles more efficient, our energy more efficient. I can't do that with Republicans, right? They regularly take the axe at solar panels or wind farms, and their whole thing is drill, baby, drill, which we just know is a dirty form of energy, and it's not sustainable. The Earth doesn't
100%.
create enough oil to just keep drill, baby, drilling. It's a finite resource.
100%. If you look at all the list of the Democrats' issues, you're going to find very few things the Republicans want to do to solve those issues because that doesn't get them votes. The same way, if you look at the long list of Republican issues like the deficit and the giant amount of spending we have to put in our yearly budget to pay off the interest, no debt doesn't even register for Democrats. The border, this is the first election in my lifetime where immigration has grown past the Republican Party as an issue. It's only ever the conservatives that care about immigration in every other election until this one. It was the #2.
Well, you can have different standards. Like I said, think 100 years in the future. Pretend you could make America the way you... What does a truly exceptional America look like to you, Tyler? Because to me, it looks like people being free of poverty, having clean air. I'll even grant, our border would be controlled because I'd favor a freer immigration system that allows for the supply of labor and consumers to enter our economy. I can make all these visions for the world that I want America to go to, where I think we would just be much better. I don't see a long-term vision for Republicans that isn't just embellished in chaos and destruction. We're not getting a cleaner environment. We're not getting easier access to healthcare. We're not getting cheaper goods. We're not getting consumer financial protections. And our immigration issues kind of made us, this is not a smart way to handle immigration. You might think it is. It's just not. You're right. This is a supply of labor and consumers, and people who are being deported. A lot of them aren't criminals, right? And there's no due process. That should be frightening to you. If you really, an exceptional America is an America where we're not led by a king. We have laws and checks and balances.
Okay, so in terms of immigration, if you want to compare that, how the Biden administration did immigration was not only the worst way I've ever seen in my life, it was the biggest unforced error I've ever seen in politics that legitimately probably lost them on the election. All but one exit poll shows that this was the #1 issue, besides one exit poll that says economy and inflation. The rest all say across the board that Biden's disastrous immigration was what lost them this election. It's fucking crazy. I've never seen this leave the Republican Party.
I don't disagree with that. Biden made a lot of misplays on immigration. I'm not denying that. I'm asking you, what is your vision? What is well, I guess because you vote Republican, I'm putting this on you, but really you. What is your vision for the future, and do Republicans get you there?
Yeah, on border, absolutely. Because Republicans are giving you 90s Democrats border policy. And as a 90s Democrat, it's like, yes, I want a tough border. I want that fucking
90s Democrats do not believe in suspending due process.
There's no suspension of due process going on. If you lose your visa or alien status, you aren't entitled.
There's no
to
due
a
process.
legal
No,
There's no due process.
I'm sorry, just taking people who have a legal right to be here, saying we've suspended your visa, and then deporting to an El Salvadorian slave camp. That's not due process. That's not due process in any sense of the word, right? It's the government saying we've decided to ship you out of a country that you have a legal right to be in. That's the wild thing. These are people who immigrated legally and had permission to be here.
And then they lost that permission.
Okay, if you're endorsing the government, then where's the crime? If they did something illegal, where's the due process? Prove it.
Potentially that it was illegal. They did. They sued the Biden administration, and a federal judge at the 6th Circuit suspended Biden's visa program. So what happened was Biden bypassed Congress, allocated funds that weren't supposed to be meant for it to invent a visa program inside the DHS.
Hold on, people who are here.
I'm telling you how they got here. I'm telling you how they got here. So he invented a visa program that was potentially illegal. 22 states sued him. The court said this looks bad, and while it was being litigated, they froze the program. So it was potentially and probably illegal. So if that program that was potentially and probably illegal let 600,000 people in, it's pretty easy to argue that all those people should not be here if they came in a way that was not legally sound.
You've got people who've been living here since. I'm sorry. Like, think of that Korean student. Her crime was protesting on campus. She's lived here since she was like a child. There's no due process there. She had to go to a court to get a restraining order. Yes, you do.
Due process is for citizens.
No, it's just not. That's just not true.
It is. This is the law. This is the 1952 immigration law with a carve-out for national security. The only thing required is not proof, is not due process, is not committing a crime. It is a reasonable judgment from the Secretary of State. And that's why they're going to win. That's why Marco Rubio is daring people to sue him. That's why Biden kicked out 1,000 Chinese nationals in the exact same way.
Just to be clear, people have sued him, and he's been injuncted by judges, and then our government... No, they're not. They're being injuncted, right? That's not losing. Several have been gotten orders not to deport people without some sort of process to appear before a court. That's not losing. That's the court saying you have to come to us to explain your invocation of this law to deport these people, because you can't just do it to somebody who has a legal right to be here. Wait, is this the government is this the government you want to live under? A government that can just deport people?
Yes, deport people.
It could just support you. Don't you see that?
I'm a citizen. That's not true. That's hyperbole.
How do you know any of these people deported aren't citizens?
Because they are under alien status that was revoked. The government has a list of people that are on alien status that they revoked.
There have been U.S. citizens been deported. Several of these people have legal residence here.
No, the only gentleman is that teacher, the gay teacher, and he was also here.
There was a child with brain cancer who was deported.
The teacher was also here he was here on asylum claims, which are also being revoked because the massive amount of fraud that came with the Obama-era restructuring of the critical fear clause. When Obama restructured it, Trump came into office and unrestructured it, raising that standard to reasonable fear, which is a different standard of asylum. When Biden came back, and he revoked that and brought back Obama's diminished credible fear clause.
So wait,
and the abuse took off of that.
You think that the government of the United States has a reasonable fear of a Korean student who's lived here since she was a child here?
These are clauses that you can apply for asylum for. What she did was she was an alien. She professed her support for a group that is antithetical to Westerners and Western values.
Did she wait? Hamas? Prove it. Prove it.
That was deemed Palestine. That was deemed enough of a national security risk.
Palestine. So wait, Justin, you don't see a problem with that? Saying we support Palestine as grounds for removal. You don't see an issue with that?
I mean, that's not what. Again, she could support Palestine. You could support the KKK. You just don't.
You're right. This is America.
By our government, the government giving you a gift of free money and access to our country is not a right. It's a gift, and they don't have to endorse you. You're allowed to say whatever the fuck you want. They can pull their endorsement of you, and that's all that happens.
Then I guess our different. So maybe we'll never get to it. We're just not going to agree with it. We're in a classic impasse. But my vision for America is not a country where the government can just deport people without due process, wash their hands of it, and say, well, they're not a citizen. It's certainly not, because this is dictator shit. I don't know how you don't see that, but this is just dictator shit. This is why they've been losing in courts so much.
They're not losing. They've won most of the cases.
What is the GOP bitching about?
The fact that we have district judges holding up the president. Like, there's a district judge that held up Trump's executive order about gender in the military because she said she did independent research and found out gender is actually a little bit more complicated than that. That's her ruling. Nothing legal. That shit's going to get appealed.
No, her ruling was that the Trump administration engaged in discriminatory action based on their statements. That was her ruling. You're talking about Judge Reyes.
Yes.
Okay,
yes,
that wasn't her ruling.
Her
ruling wasn't gender's complicated. Her ruling was Trump administration was engaging in open discrimination of servicemen and women.
Yes, and the ruling was based off the fact that there's more than two genders, which is something that the federal government in policy and definition has now rejected. The federal government's official stance is there are not more than two genders.
Okay. Again,
another 80-20 issue that was a huge L for Democrats. One of the three things that they need to change before they start winning elections again.
We have two entirely different concerns, I guess. Mine's not about what polls well. Mine's about what's right. And I'm trying to look at the America I want to live in. So this is why I was bringing it back to that 100-year plan, right? If you look at the economy, if you look at national security, look at our relationship with our allies, everything that's made America great in the last 100 years is being rapidly undone by the Trump administration. And you've got people who are cheerleading it like seals. It should not be the case that our own allies, have to issue travel advisories for traveling to the United States because of the way this administration acts, because we engage in arbitrary and capricious detention and deportations of people without giving them hearings that they're legally entitled to.
They're not legally entitled to them. Again, I've explained.
Well, the courts disagree. The courts disagree.
No, they don't. They do not. Marco Rubio is kicking people out by the hundreds right now. Hundreds and hundreds of people are being deported.
And courts are saying stop deporting them. No.
You didn't look at the court case, because that one judge that did that was only talking about 5 people of the 260 on the plane, and they removed those 5 people and sent the fucking planes out. And he got pissed that they did that and injunctioned them in an illegal way that's going to get slapped down by SCOTUS. Like all the rest of these have. Elon just got 2 big wins this week in court. They're winning these left and right, and people are getting shipped out of the country by the thousand. They're like, I don't understand. Like, if you look at what's actually going on, the deportation numbers day to day, you see that this is still going on at a massive rate.
This is just the dumbest way to solve immigration as an issue. I'm sorry.
Not.
It is. Let me explain why. It's inefficient. It results in labor shortages in key industries that we need labor in. It removes the supply of consumers. It removes human capital. It's anti-capitalist, right? So there's that angle to it. It's bad for our economy. It's bad for our view on the world stage. People look at us like tyrants because that's kind of how we're behaving. It only fuels more division in this country because a lot of people, this is a country of immigrants.
Okay, but they're illegal immigrants.
You won't know that they're illegal without. Firstly, not all of them are illegal immigrants.
They are. Once their temporary protective status is revoked, they're given a warning that they are now here illegally and they can self-deport. Thousands of them did. The ones that are being deported now are the ones that ignored that warning.
This is a very stupid way to resolve this issue.
You can say that, but the American voter
do you find? I don't care if the American voter agrees or disagrees.
I know you don't.
Stop deflecting to that.
No, I'm not deflecting that, because what you're saying is this is what I want, and what I'm saying is this is what the American voter wants, and you're detached. You are detached from what the United States wants to be.
I have my own position, and I want you to have your own position, and I want you to stop deferring to what the American voter can cheerlead summary assassinations or summary executions of every immigrant in this country. I don't really care. It's still wrong. Right? What I'm saying is this is an inefficient way to handle this problem. That we're not going to do this with 20 plus million immigrants, right? We've got like 20 million illegal immigrants in this country. Do you think it's feasible to just deport them all?
No, and neither does Trump.
Do you think it's wise to try to do that?
No, and neither does Trump.
Really? Trump's arguing for
Yeah.
the largest deportation operation
No,
since
he's-
Operation Wetback.
He is, because we have the most amount of people here with the farthest means of fraud, illegally being here, or illegal programs that brought them here, potentially illegal programs that brought them here than we've ever had. Admitted by the New York Times, we had more people come into the country in 4 years than ever. So just removing them, by dint of just removing the people, you're going to have the largest program because we had the largest amount come in.
Okay,
So
what is Trump going to do to fix our immigration system? Because this is not fixing it.
It's already fixed. There's no more asylum abuse going on.
That's not fit. Okay. Do you think the only
not
problem with
broken.
we got 20 million illegal immigrants in this country? How are you going to get them? Are you going to deport them? Is that wise?
Not all 20 million.
Okay, then what do you do with them? Then what do you do with them?
I'm basically just going to explain to you the policy that Trump's talked about a dozen times.
Are they getting legal status?
No, he was talking about if you get, there's the staple of the green card to a college degree example he brought up multiple times.
The Dream
So
Act.
that could be something. No, that's not what the Dream Act did.
It's kind of similar to the Dream Act, except the Dream
No,
Act
that's
was a
not what
pathway to citizenship if you went
That's
to
not
school.
what DACA did. The Dream Act.
I didn't
that's
say
not what
DACA.
did.
DACA is deferred action. The Dream Act was something else.
The Dream Act was DACA basically put in as an executive order. You are right, maybe that was part of the original bill because they did have to shed some things in order to make it into an EO, but
I'm going to ask my question again. 20 million illegal immigrants in this country. If we're not going to deport them and we're not going to give them legal status, what's the plan?
most of them are being deported.
Okay, so we're going to deport. How much of the 20 million are we going to deport?
From what they're talking about right now, they said they're just getting rid of the criminals and the people that the Biden.
Clearly, they're not just getting rid of criminals, but go on.
That's what they're aiming for, is to get rid of the
They
criminals.
could aim a little better.
Oh, they don't have to, because that's also going to be explained in a moment. But they're aiming for the criminals and the people that have been through the immigration courts already and have denied status. Those are the only people they're aiming for.
Okay,
they have a policy they're implementing called collateral damage. This was also discussed by Tom Homan on the news, that if they are in a building arresting somebody violently, and while they're in there, they find other people that are here illegally, that are non-violent or whatever, just here illegally, hanging out with that person, cooperating with them, whatever, they're also taking them.
Okay, I'm still not any clearer than I was earlier. How many of the 20 million people are we aiming to deport?
I don't know. I don't have the answer for you. I'm just telling you where we are right now.
Well, if we're not going to deport all of them, what are we going to do with the people we're not going to deport?
And that's, again, I started bringing up things like that. Trump said some of them, if they have been here, they went through college and they got a degree, they'd have a green card staple to it.
Has he done
a lot
that?
of the non-violent people, not yet, no. That's something he talked
Okay,
about.
just
for
to be
the
clear, that
second term.
Korean student he wants to kick out of the and same with Mahmoud Clear, both of those are college students who haven't broken any law. Okay, just
They're not illegal immigrants, though. Those are visa recipients that the Secretary of State can kick out at his discretion for any reason he wants. If he wants to say, you were picking your toes in Poughkeepsie, you can't ride a horse on a Wednesday, you're losing your visa, that's valid.
Right. My issue is this is just asinine immigration policy. That we've got 20 million illegal immigrants here that exist in this state of legal limbo. There's no compunction from the Republican Party to do anything about it except let's just deport them. You don't want to say deport them all, that's fine, because you can't realistically deport them all. But it's logistically complicated. It's just dumb policy. It just makes us look bad. It costs us more money. It's bad for our economy. Like, I want a progressive actual fix to this that looks at the people who are here and finds some way to enmesh them into our society, creates some sort of legal status. And you can't just say, well, we're just going to revoke the legal statuses of the people that are already here, because that only makes our problems worse. It only drags us before courts and gets us tacked on with travel advisories that hurts our economy. Like, do you see anything I'm just saying right now? Do you see all that's true?
I don't see all that is true.
What do
I
you
would
see
say
that's wrong?
Illegal immigrants don't start generating a positive income for the economy until about their fourth generation in the country. Where if you bring in legal immigrants, you're kind of leaving
hang on. Based on what?
I could find you. It was a fact check. So FAIR did a study saying illegal immigrants cost us like hundreds of millions of dollars a year. And then
I wouldn't trust FAIR, but I understand that.
I'm not. PolitiFact fact checked it, and I'm going off of the PolitiFact fact check of this. The fact check was they're only looking at it in the moment, because the numbers they were using were correct, but the aggregation of the numbers is what they were critiquing, in that they were only looking at it in the moment, how much illegal immigrants cost this generation. Whereas if you start to add up every other generation of illegal immigrants, By the fourth generation, they are a net positive to the economy, even though first generation, they do tend to cost us about $200 billion a year in government assistance, policing, and all sorts of...
The National Academy of Science put out this major study on the effects of immigration on the economy. They didn't find that immigrants were a net drain, not even in the first generation, because immigrants come here, not only do they work jobs people need, so they're a source of low wages, right? Low wage labor, which is good. They also spend money.
Yes.
They also spend money. Yes, we do want immigrants. We don't. Then let's make it easier to immigrate so that they can immigrate legally.
It's pretty easy to immigrate.
No, it's not. It's a several-year process. It's a several-year process just to acquire.
It's only a several-year process for the people coming in for work that don't have family here because
seasonal
we have a quota
workers
on it.
Who are subject to IRA from the 90s.
There's nothing wrong with the system. It's just the amount of people. All we have to do is double the amount of people that we're letting in.
If there's nothing wrong with the system, it's just the amount of people, then the system needs to change to accommodate that many people, right? We understand economies of scale. We need to make we should want them, right? What I'm saying is these people, I've already explained it. One, they lower crime. Two, they're good for the economy. This is like the two direct answers. But they come here, they immediately start spending money.
Why don't we let 50 million in right now?
Because our economy can't support 50 million.
Exactly. So what can our economy support? About
supply and demand.
50
million people aren't going to come in just because we open the door to 50 million people.
It's supply and demand.
We got demand for low wage labor in agriculture. We got demand for low wage labor in textiles. We got demand for low wage labor in construction. We got all kinds of demand for immigrant labor that these people regularly fill these jobs. There's demand for this labor. Okay. Why not let the free market dictate it?
Because right now there's only 2 million more jobs than there are people in the United States looking for jobs. We're not hitting a point of no, and this was like
for every one job an immigrant takes, 1.2 jobs are created. That's pure the National Bureau of Economic Research.
It doesn't happen instantly. That takes
nothing
time.
Happens instantly.
It takes a generation.
Then let's invest in that generation. Let's make that investment so we can have a better economy in the future.
Everyone agrees. Everyone agrees.
You don't agree.
No, I do, and Trump does, and the people taking up the slots.
This is not how you agree with that.
Yeah, I do agree with that. The people taking up those spots, the opportunity cost, are the illegal immigrants sneaking in that you also want to give a path to citizenship.
Then
incentivize breaking the law.
Firstly, I didn't say path to citizenship.
You did. You said you wanted nationalism.
Enmeshing into our society does not mean a path to citizenship.
Giving them legal. What I mean.
I'm telling you what my position is. You can pretend I'm saying something else. I'm telling you what my position is. Okay, enmeshing them in our society means giving them a path to legalization. Some way they can be here legally. If they're here legally, we need to make them legal. That would be better for our economy. That would be better for our society. We would have documentation for the people who are here, right? That's how you solve this in an intelligent way. This is not an intelligent way to solve this. This is a shotgun blast to the face to deprive us of needed labor, human capital, and consumers.
So your intelligent way was rejected by the public because your intelligent way ignores the law. It says if you snuck in here illegally, if you did the wrong thing, you ignored our immigration process, you cut all these better people in line, and you came in, you don't get to fucking stay. You don't get to jump to the front of the fucking line because you're the one that snuck in. Get the fuck out, and we're going to bring somebody that's more deserving of the position in. And if that means we have to up our immigration numbers because we're not taking in illegal immigrants, okay, so fucking what? I'll up the immigration numbers. Absolutely happy with that. Legal immigrants are significantly more productive, significantly less likely to be on government benefits, significantly less likely to
illegal immigrants are not eligible for government benefits, just to be clear. The only government benefit they get is Medicaid. How?
They can live in a household that gets them. That's how the studies are done. You live in a household
with a citizen?
Being illegally. Yes, if you're being illegally.
Okay, so then a citizen gets the benefits.
But again, in cities and districts, they give illegal immigrants IDs. They give them the right to vote in local elections.
So they find some way to document them. That's a good thing. You want to document them.
Non-legal citizens can get Medicaid in certain states.
And that's fine. Yeah, they should. Like, people should get health care. Yeah, because you don't want somebody just dying in the hospital and nobody getting paid for handling it. I said with the exception of Medicaid. The one exception that exists because you can't just let people die in hospitals or make doctors work for free. Certainly you agree with that, right? Hang on, if an illegal immigrant goes to the hospital, should they just be dead? Don't treat them?
No, they should be kicked out of the country beforehand and not protected.
Okay, so they're bleeding, just kick them out of the country?
I mean, beforehand, before it comes to that.
Okay, they're in the hospital. I'm asking you what you do with them in the hospital. You brought up Medicaid.
I guess the taxpayer has to foot the dime for it.
That's what I'm asking you. Thank you.
Yeah, taxpayer has to foot the dime for it again. And that's why they're costing us hundreds of billions of dollars a year.
Legalize them and they can pay it back.
Or
That
kick
seems
them out,
obvious to me.
bring in better
Legalize them
people.
and you get paid. You can pay them. They can pay it
Yeah,
back.
I understand. This
They want to be here.
obvious
They
to
want
you.
to work. They will.
I
Pay,
understand.
If they're documented, they pay taxes. Right? They are consumers, so they also help our local economy. All this stuff.
I know the argument. I
You're just not
understand the
addressing
argument.
it. All you're saying is,
I
well,
am
you're illegal,
addressing
so
it.
get the fuck out. Like, you're not addressing
I'm
my
addressing
argument.
it. I'm addressing your argument in that they are illegal. They are breaking the law. We're not going to just ignore that because it's a little bit better for the economy. If we took all the people that raped kids out of prison and got them into manufacturing, it would be better for the economy. Do you want to do that too?
What do you think? What do you think I'm going to say to that?
I'm going to think you say no because you think one crime is okay.
Right, so let's try to
for
be a
them
little
rape.
bit good faith.
No.
I don't want, just to be clear, Tyler, I don't want people to immigrate illegally. Our immigration system is broken, so they do immigrate illegally. Then why do people immigrate illegally, Tyler? If it's not broken, why do people immigrate illegally?
Because we don't want to take in more than they want to come in. Because they want to come in at a higher rate.
So that's
than
not
we're willing to
broken.
accept
More
them.
people want to come
That's
in.
not
Our
broken.
system doesn't accommodate them.
Yeah.
You don't think that's broken?
No, that's not broken. Who the fuck? They're not citizens. They don't get to dictate
An
how many
immigration
people we
system
allow
that
into our country.
system that incentivizes illegal immigration is a broken immigration system. I don't know how you can't see
agree.
that. We've got
I
20
agree.
million.
That's why I'm
20
trying to
million
say,
illegal
don't
immigrants in this
national-
country. That is a broken immigration system.
You are the one incentivizing it by saying reward them instead of
I'm not
punish
saying
them.
reward anybody. Dude, you want to charge
Yes,
them a
you are.
fine to get legalized? I don't give a shit. We need a better system that
No.
gets people here legally, to immigrate
We
legally.
have a working system that
No,
works
we
great.
don't. We've
I
got
am
an
literally going
expensive
through
system
it
that makes
right
everything
now.
worse.
It's not expensive. I'm going
Where
through
are
it
you
right
immigrating
now.
from?
I'm not. My fiance is. I'm going through it right now. It's super fucking easy.
Okay.
It's not hard. The only reason people aren't coming in.
I would think if it's not easy and it's not hard, they would just immigrate legally.
If we set that quota to 5 million, that would change your concerns about the immigration system. Yes?
A moving quota that operates within like the supply and demand of the economy makes sense to me. Yeah. If
So
we
then
change
it's not
our
the system. So the system is not broken. All you're saying is the quota is in the wrong spot.
you don't
the
think
system's not
laws like
broken.
IRA that make it harder to immigrate, like as a seasonal worker, make our system worse?
Okay, there's reasons for that. We don't want to overload small, different certain jobs. We do need people right now post-COVID. Absolutely. That does not mean
Our unemployment
ignore
rate's at
people
record
are here
lows,
illegally.
dude. Our unemployment
It
rate
is.
is at record lows. We want these people for old economy jobs that Americans don't work, like agriculture. When's the last time you saw an American picking an orange?
I mean, if we have to raise the prices of oranges in order to not have second-class citizens coming to do our slave labor, I'm cool with
Okay,
that.
I'd like to not pay $3 an orange, personally. It's better for our
Cool.
economy if we all pay less for oranges. That's totally fine.
Cool. And I'd like a system that doesn't endorse illegal immigration by saying, well, our oranges
This
are
system
gonna be cheaper.
endorses illegal immigration.
It does not.
Absolutely.
It does not.
By
It's
incentivizing
not.
people to immigrate illegally, endorses illegal
It
immigration.
doesn't incent. Our quota is because we set that number for our economy so we don't overload our economy. You admitted to that yourself with the 50 million question. Them saying your quota isn't high enough, so we're going to sneak in, is not saying our
They're
immigration
not going to
system is
immigrate
broken.
here unless there's the jobs.
They
Here. This is a matter
have-
of supply and demand. It's an economic
Okay,
problem.
I get that, and that's why I'm an interventionist. I want to go make their country like a mini America, so the only people that we get here are the ones that have a good job opportunity,
Okay.
and they move. here
I'm
with
not
a-
against that. What are the Republican Party doing to make their countries a mini America? What is the
They're
Republican
in a-
Party doing to make their countries a place where they can work and stop immigrating here then?
Don't stop feeding the bears. You just stop pumping money into them when they're a corrupt country. Like, look at the instances
Like
of
Israel?
and Hamas. Yeah. No, like Palestine. Like, when you pumping all this food aid into Palestine, and you know Hamas is seizing almost every single shipment and withholding most of it from the people, and it's funding their war effort to keep pumping food into that, is keeping Hamas fighting against you. When you know Russia's economy is fully dependent on Europeans buying their energy in order for them to fight the war in Ukraine, and you keep pumping $400 billion into their energy sector that's owned by their state so they can fund the war in Ukraine, you're not fucking serious. That's all. That's the point Trump's making. They're not fucking serious, and we are. And I kind of like that.
I'm sorry. I mean, we're at an impasse. There's no way this is a serious way to handle this issue. That's fine. You want to say that it is. I think anybody with even a rudimentary understanding of economics would say this is a really dumb way. This is why, like most people who are actual capitalists, tend to support free markets and free movement of people, like the Schengen zone in Europe. It's a good thing because it promotes the supply of consumers, it improves the supply of labor, and it improves human capital. And everything that this policy you endorse just undermines that fundamentally.
Most of Europe has the immigration laws that Trump is now putting in place. They do not let illegal immigrants come into the country. We do.
They have a Schengen-free travel zone so that people can travel from one country to the next without a passport. That's what I'm referring to.
If you are in the EU and a member of the EU and a citizen of the EU, in the same way we have with all 50 states. Yeah, absolutely, cool. But at the end of the day,
within one country, if they're not a confederate, why don't we establish something like that, like a NAFTA free travel zones with Mexico and Canada?
When illegal immigrants come into their country, they hold them at the border at gunpoint and deport them immediately. They don't allow them to retroactively apply for asylum.
You're under this idea. I'm against deporting people whatsoever. I'm not. You don't need to keep saying that. I'm saying there's a more intelligent way. No, I'm saying automatic deportations is a stupid idea. You understand the difference?
I don't. This is the first I'm hearing.
You don't understand the difference. Okay.
No, this is the first I'm hearing.
You have 20 million
distinction. You're saying it's a stupid idea.
I said earlier. Hang on. Did you not hear me say earlier? I'm not in favor of illegal immigration.
Yeah, and then you went on to say we should give illegal immigrants, 20 million people, a reward for coming here illegally. I've heard you say it, and then your position.
Hang on. What was that reward?
Your position is antithetical to your words, is what I'm saying.
What is that reward I want to give them?
Citizenship or
really? You didn't hear me say you didn't hear me say
letting them stay here illegally.
Really?
Is the reward.
I said the opposite. I said I did not want to give them citizenship. I said by enmesh, what I want to do is give them a legal path, a way to get here legally. Yes, to stay, to work. And I also said I don't have an issue if you charge a fine for that, which is something that's related to DACA.
You're saying let them cut in line.
I'm not against deporting people who are criminals. I'm not against stopping people at the border. I'm not against deportations as a principle. Right? There is what I said time and time again that clearly you've not listened to was that there's a smarter way to handle this policy, and this isn't it. It's bad for the economy, and it makes us look bad on the world stage.
Well, this is the policy of the United States since 1952. That
it is what it is. This is a consistent theme when talking to. I'm sorry. This has been a consistent theme. This entire conversation has been a consistent theme for me to point out something bad, and you just say.
My way's smarter, and so what? That 60% of people disagree with me. I don't give a shit about them. They're all stupid.
My way.
I'm the smart one. Listen to me. Run for president, then, man. Run for president. You win. You can run it your way. But
I'm not concerned with what most people.
They are not. Okay, I understand that, but I am, and so is democracy. And most people see people here illegally as bad and want them to fuck out.
You can't cheerlead democracy after voting for a guy who tried to overthrow an election by your own admission. You don't get to be the defender of democracy now. No, I'm sorry. Well, look, we're at a game.
We are
the conversations.
You're hyper partisan, man. I can't get you to see the center here. I can't get you to agree to something. Like your
argument. I am not hyper partisan. Firstly, my position is not necessarily in line with the Democratic Party. You've said consistently every time I brought up something wrong that Trump has done or the Republican Party has done or the way our immigration laws function. Consistently, what you've said is it is the way it is.
No, I said the signal thing was a huge deal, and we should stop focusing on Trump making stupid statements.
And then I asked you if Trump should fire them, and he said no, he trusts them, so we should trust Trump because the people voted for Trump.
Yeah, it's up to him to fire him. I mean, if he wants to do that and the public judges him for it, he loses some points.
So it is the way it is. That's what you're saying.
Yeah. Yes. That's up to them to do.
Tyler, you killing me.
I'm sorry, but I didn't hear anybody making these fucking claims when Biden was in office. When he droned a car full of a family because they had bad intel, thought it was a fucking terrorist, and killed 7 kids. Who was calling for anyone to retire? Republican.
Biden should retired? I'll give you that. Biden shouldn't be droning cars with families in it based on bad intel. I agree 100%. Trump should fire Hegseth and Waltz for revealing classified information to a journalist. Do you agree with that?
Maybe, but the whataboutism that you keep talking about is called precedent when it's done in law. That's literally how precedent works, is whataboutism. Well, what about this situation here? So when the previous president decides to set the precedent to not fire somebody after killing a family of 9 that was innocent, then I don't think a leak, because they accidentally invited a reporter to a group chat, raises to a higher standard where we need to demand heads. Sorry. President Biden set the standard. Killing 9 people was fine. A leak based on inviting somebody to a group chat, probably not worth firing somebody if that's the case. That's what the definition of presidential is. It carries over past just the guy you don't like in office.
I understand that. There's a lot of reasons I don't like Biden necessarily in office. There's a lot of problems I had with the Biden administration. I don't know who you keep talking to, or you were confusing me with somebody else, my friend. Right? I've got plenty of criticisms of the Biden administration. Well, when we started this, we had the same problem where you say, well, people see me this way and I'm just this way and you're this way. And I want you to claim a position for yourself, just like I have a position for myself. And I want to stop.
I'm a Democrat.
Well,
it's easy. I'm neoliberal. Easy. That's all I had to ask. I'm a Bill Clinton Democrat. I like tough on crime, tough on border, and the Sister Soldier moment where he tells his activist left-wing flank to shut the fuck up, and we're going to govern him like adults.
Does Donald Trump strike you as a neoliberal?
More so than Kamala Harris, yes.
In what way?
Oh, man.
Name one neoliberal thing Donald Trump has done.
Donald Trump is a pretty bastion neoliberal in terms of, let me go through. I could start running through his policy, but if you start looking at like neoliberalism in terms of like the experts running things and to a degree, he's hired
is Pete Hegseth an expert?
He was served in the military for a long time. Yeah.
That's not what qualifies him to be the head of the DOD. Wait, do you think just serving in the military qualifies you to lead the Justice? I'm sorry, the Department of Defense?
I'm making a general point. You make one anecdote and you think you're debunking it without even letting me make the point. I'm talking about the people he's appointed in the business sector. Doug Burgum is a goat. Howard Lutnick, as much of a scumbag as he is, he knows what he's doing financially. Like some of these people he's got going on in the business sector are good at their job. Lee Zeldin at the EPA, you're going to hate him for climate change shit, but the dude knows what he's doing. Marco Rubio, 99-0 in the Senate because he's a serious politician. He's got some real good stars in key places that I like. So, I mean, like, I trust that. Biden was literally senile in office. There's reporting from both the New York Times and the Wall Street Journal that they were gaslighting, lying. His administration was lying. Kamala Harris was lying. When they attacked Robert Hur, it was a complete lie. They all knew he was non-compos mentis and covered up for it. It's been reported by hundreds now of leaked staffers from his administration. So, like, the fact that that was covered up and now I have to pretend like Trump isn't fit to serve, at least the dude can complete a fucking sentence. Like, I don't know. If you offered me, like, JFK as the alternative, of course I'd vote for that. But it was fucking Kamala Harris. Like, she's like everything she did was, like, Title 47, the thing I feel like is like one of the biggest issues in local crime in California.
Is this better?
She was the reason for that. Her office, like, rallied support in the backlines to make sure that passed. So, I don't know. Like, to me, I don't want that leadership. I don't want Chesa Boudin to be my DA.
Okay. I'm not sure I would agree that Donald Trump is a neoliberal or that he's appointed, expert leadership to any of. I'm sure somebody might be an expert in something. Well, we got like a vaccine skeptic in charge of HHS, right? We've got a known alcoholic. I didn't name him. I just feel like if you're really a neoliberal and you really get experts in charge of their agencies, you wouldn't get him in charge of the HHS, or you wouldn't get Pete Hegseth in charge of DOD, right? Or you wouldn't get Tulsi Gabbard in charge of DNI, right? It doesn't feel like things you would do if you're really a neoliberal and really interested in getting experts in all these positions.
You're right. That's politics, though. Like, every administration that has somebody, like, sign away their voters to you as an endorsement wants something, and I guarantee that's what he offered Tulsi and what's his dick?
Well, he told RFK Jr. in exchange for his endorsement he would get a cabinet position. So that's just political payback.
Yeah, exactly. And like Obama did that. Like one of his fucking ambassadors was like his largest donor, his son or something like that. And it happens like all the fucking time. You got to reward your people. Like even John Favreau, the dude Pod Save America, those were just Obama campaigners. They just were passionate about him and went out and campaigned for him. One of them became his driver. And then they eventually became speechwriters and advisors over the years and shit. They just started out as campaigners that drove a car. So, like, it's cool. Like, I would love that to be my story to go work for a camp. I don't care if they're Democrat or Republican.
Ideally, you don't have a spoil system in government, especially in the most powerful, wealthiest government in the world, that you can't just get into a position of power because of who you know and what your relationship is with them. Like, Doge being, headed
sort of headed by Elon Musk should be problematic because, he functionally bought his way into a government agency, and now he's taking an axe to several different government agencies in violation of law, right? He's shuttering offices that he doesn't really have the authority to, and judges are having to step in and put a temporary restraining order on the government itself. Like, that's not something...
They just won that lawsuit. USAID is getting shut down July 1st.
Oh, are they? Interesting.
They won that lawsuit like 2 days ago.
Well, it's not just USAID, but what I'm getting at is you shouldn't be able to buy your way into government, and you shouldn't be able to get into government purely on not nepotism, cronyism, right?
That's like, the buying the way into government thing is something I have this conversation. You should come hang out in my personal Discord where Tiberius and my brother are, because I just had this exact argument with him the other day. Like, the unions are Joe Biden and the Democratic Party's bread and butter they're like one of their biggest donors every fucking year. Biden's EV tax break literally had a carve out that gave $5,000 extra off your vehicle if it was made by a U.S. union. That, to me, if a Republican did that with one of their special interest donors, if you get your car from Tesla, you get $5,000 extra off. That would be like, people be screaming to the high hells about how that's like, they basically bought their way in, but the union got all sorts of special benefits from Biden, and people are like, oh, that's just politics as usual. I think it's all politics as usual. So
unions getting preferential treatment in government contracts is not equal to or on the level of Elon Musk buying his way into a government office, right?
Well, that's what I'm saying. They donate to the Democrat. They basically, using your logic, the unions bought special interests from the Democratic Party to get a tax break that benefited them more than it benefited any other EV maker. They got $7,500 off of your EV from the tax break, and if it was union made, you got an extra $5,000 on top of that off, incentivizing people to go to union made cars instead.
That seems, so remember my 100-year plan. This seems like a good thing to me. I want an America where we do support unions, right?
Yeah,
where workers do have rights to collectively bargain, which, by the way, Trump has taken away.
I get that, but how is that not buying a fucking policy to benefit you directly?
I'm not sure it is. I'd have to look into it a bit more, but it's not on the level. What I said wasn't on the level of Elon Musk buying his way into a government office. Elon Musk donated $280 million to the Trump administration, and now he's got that. He's basically the quasi head of an official government agency that he's not supposed to be in charge of. At least legally, he's not supposed to be in charge of. Yeah. And he's acting, in ways that are arguably illegal with his charge. So, I don't know about this union thing. I'm not necessarily sure I would say union endorsements or donations qualify on the same level or at all as Elon Musk. But for me, the fix is easy. Just get money out of campaigns in general and use a public fund like other countries do. Because you just open yourself up to this kind of corruption in the first place.
We tried that. When we tried that, what the Supreme Court said is Congress is not allowed to tell the U.S. private citizen how and when and why or what they can do to campaign and endorse candidates.
Yeah, I remember.
You're allowed to go start a private fund and take money to go say, hey, everybody go see Rocky Horror Picture Show. Just because you're a passionate fan.
I feel like the Supreme Court, I assume you're referring to Citizens United. The Supreme Court, in my opinion, erred pretty significantly because we don't all have equal access to the same airwaves, right? It's going to be monopolized based on who has the most money to take control of those airwaves, and it's not in the public interest because the public, own those airwaves. We own the advertising space, right? There's only a finite amount of airwaves in advertising space, right? It is an attention economy. It's just going to be taken over by those who have the most money to dominate that attention. And that's not exactly fair to the rest of the Americans who don't have that money, right? So America shouldn't be a place where your ability to leverage financial assistance to one campaign results in a spoil because it makes us fundamentally different as classes of citizens.
Yeah. And that's a bad thing. I'm sorry to do this to you because a lot of these subjects we're bouncing to, like DEI and campaign funding, I've done full panels on these. I've gotten whole documents worth of preparation and stuff. So like I'm coming at you with an argument that I've already parsed out with people that disagree and such, and you're hearing it kind of maybe for the first time. So it seems like almost like I have headcanon that I'm not explaining properly essentially to you. And I get that. I'm sorry. And that's why I keep saying things and having to backtrack and explain how I got there.
I assure you, this is not my first rodeo either.
I'm just
been in this space. I've taken a break. I'm coming back.
I've been in this space enough that I've heard these arguments. It's not.
I feel you. I just noticed I was doing that a couple of times and I had to like backtrack. So just personally saying my bad is all I'm trying to do.
Okay, no problem. If there's something I don't know, I'll usually just tell you I don't know what you're talking about, or I'll ask you details about it. And
Yeah.
But I'm not going to assume you're lying to me or you're saying anything incorrect. You know, I might ask for clarification, but at least I try to be good faith enough to assume you know what you're talking about, and I just request the same respect back that I know what I'm talking about.
If you saw my daily media diet, I wake up, listen to the 15-minute daily news caps from both Daily Wire and New York Times. Then I go into the Ezra Klein podcast, commentary podcast, 2 National Review podcasts. Then I go into the fucking, RCP, 538, and then I got WAPO. Like, I'm literally hitting every major, other than Wall Street Journal, because I don't like the guy. I'm hitting every major news organization's podcast almost every day.
You don't think your deference to podcasts might be a problem in that it results in confirmation bias?
That's just me driving for work. I read. I go to my number one news outlet is All Sides. So you can go there. They'll give you a story. They'll give you the left wing version, the right wing version, and then the kind of the center version, which sometimes usually leans a little left or right, but generally it's pretty good. I try very hard to not make up on my mind about something until I've heard the best version of the other side's argument. So I'm really trying to set the standard of being a fair judge down the middle. So that's my goal right now.
Look, it sounds like we're ending this. I don't want to be mean, but your best version of the argument you've heard was it is what it is for like a lot? You don't notice that?
Because at the end of the day, the consequence is the vote. What we hold the politicians responsible to is their popular opinion and their vote. So like a lot of this is really up to the voter, and you're absolutely free to go out, form your narratives, make your argument, and pile them together and say why people shouldn't vote for this guy. I completely endorse it and support it. But what I'm trying to do is more cover it like how John Madden would cover politics in a way where it's like, that was a good move by Gavin Newsom, and he undercut Trump here, and this is a good move by Trump because...
Yeah, you're looking at politics like it's team sports. I guess I have a different interest in that.
I am, but I'm not on a team. I want to cover it like an official. Like, I want to be like the ref, in a sense, when I look at it.
Right.
Okay.
My big thing is just long-term thinking. What makes us better as a country and what makes us worse as a country, and I just look at it like that. We're at an impasse. Is there anything else you want to talk about?
I want to throw one more thing at you that I'm working on right now.
Throw it at me.
I have thought up a housing policy. It's been about 18 months. I went through a bunch of different left-wing housing. It's long. I'm just
full disclosure. I'm probably going to be whatever favors the most open markets, but go for it.
I'm going to give you the elevator pitch right now. This is a federal government-backed loan program for low-interest loans for first-time homeowners that takes people out of compacted cities with high cost of living and reallocates them to smaller towns with lower cost of living, and then also gives tax breaks to certain industries that match the skill set of people that are graduating that we're putting into those towns to build up small hubs of skills, depopulating cities, lowering the cost of rent, mortgage, and thus the assistance that goes along with them to take that money and shift it over to these smaller areas, essentially depopulation zones.
Okay, I'm not against most of that. One thing I will note as a major caveat, the pressure on housing from these major cities is supply side, not demand side, right? We don't have enough supply to meet demand. And this seems like if your idea is to just drain cities of its population, you're solving this from the wrong direction. It's a little bit like trickle down economics, right? Giving tax cuts to the people who don't really need it with the hope that everybody else finds some economic benefit. But ultimately, the actual answer to housing shortages in major cities would be to increase the supply of housing, not to decrease the available sources of labor.
It is, but how do you do that? And I go into a lot of detail with NIMBY laws. Like what NIMBY laws are, and it's a big thing people are against right now. NIMBY laws are the will of the people in that city and how they choose to vote and how they want their city set up. So instead of us squabbling over these small amounts of land, where cost of living keeps going up and up and up, and we keep packing people in more and more and more. And in New York, the sewer system's completely overflowed and needs to be redone. And the subway has been a fucking dead shithole for 20 years and constantly needs to get redone. It's costing all sorts of money, blah, blah, blah. Instead, we stop squabbling over these small amounts of land, get 10% of people out of the cities. I'm not talking about draining them completely, just taking down on the amount of people that are there. Those people that are keeping their property value up with NIMBYism, they're going to lose. They're going to lose this battle, but they don't have the power once you leave their cities.
Yeah, I'm not an NIMBY by any stretch of the imagination, but the reason that a lot of these cities have the demand they do is because they're major hubs of economic productivity, and I don't see that that's likely to change just because you do a population transplant to more rural areas with housing incentives. I'm not against housing incentives if you want to find an economic boost for more rural areas. I'm not against that. It's the part where you got to drain cities to meet that instead of just increasing the housing supply in cities, which would be the most economically efficient thing to me. Just increase the available supply of housing.
You're right, but there's a lot of things around that are preventing that. Houston's doing that right now, absolutely, but
and I think Houston should be the model for the country.
Absolutely, but you can't. It's not working for every state. I wanted to do something that would kind of be tailored state to state. Like in certain, I did a WIC panel on this where I got a bunch of people to come in and just tear my policy apart from several different angles. And what we're talking about, one of the things I had is it's a council of people that represented the city before people moved in, so they could have a seat on the city council, so they didn't feel like their culture was being done away with, and everybody hated that, so we cut that out of the policy. And it's just certain things to make up for what you're just different points you're bringing up. I'll link it to you, but I tried to really sit back and think about all these considerations, including where the funding was going to come from, paying for the whole thing as well. So once we get the ideological framework in place, then I'm going to start bringing in experts. My next step is to get a panel of right-wingers that can get along, because a lot of them, like Gibbs and Connor, don't get along. So I got to make sure I don't upset anybody like that. But I want to get a panel of right-wingers and try to sell them this as a sales pitch and see why they hate it, and take it back to my panel of left-wingers, and we go back to work on making a policy again. And once we get both sides to kind of be happy with it, we bring in people that know how to write policy, economists, and things of that nature to put real meat on those bones. And I think we could actually develop a real policy. Even if it goes nowhere, I want to establish the pipeline of being able to do open source think tanks.
Yeah, good luck with that, sir. That's some respectable activism. Hope you...
So if you ever wanted to jump into it, I'll send you the documents, 8 pages long at this point, of this policy idea I have and all my concerns and things like that. But it's just, if you decide to jump back in with 2 feet, maybe something you'd be interested in, maybe not. If you're not, I completely understand it. It's like getting homework.
Kind of what I do for a living. Yeah, go for it. Send me it.
But yeah, no, I'd say I don't know. I don't discredit a lot of what you're saying here. I just, I think we see the world in 2 different ways, and I don't know. I don't think.
I see the world the right way, and you see the world in the dumb way. All right, motherfucker.
I I really want to give considerations to the voters. Why did they pick Trump? And what am I missing?
They picked Trump because inflation was high. I think it was just broadly everywhere, all across the world, there was a rejection of incumbents. I think it was just that.
Nikki Haley would have done that. Ron DeSantis would have done that. Doug Burgum would have done that. Not Chesapeake. What the fuck was Asa Hutchinson would have done that. Why Trump?
Done what?
What am I missing? Fix the economy, there's no fix. Biden did what he needed to fix the economy. He just did it 9 months too late. That's the only real thing Biden did wrong. He waited too long to kick in the recovery plan for inflation, because the Fed was telling him it was going to be transitory. He can ignore it. He powered through ignoring it. And then when his party, Sinema and Manchin, warned him about it, he ignored them as well. Well,
strangely, he put us in a better position than everybody else in the world. He just doesn't. Most voters aren't going to see it or feel it, which is kind of a problem with a lot of Democratic policies. I'll give you an example, the Chips and Sciences Act, or the Inflation Reduction Act, right? Building the EV charging stations. We only got these many things built. Most people, there tends to be the bureaucracy of government tends to lag behind the actual effect of a law. It is an issue.
Right.
People don't tend to feel things right away. In fact, they don't even necessarily feel things in the immediate 2-3 years. And sometimes it could take decades for a policy to truly manifest its benefits. The Soviet Union arguably collapsed because of Jimmy Carter. And he wasn't even president at the time of its collapse. I'm sorry, to your question, why don't voters feel this way? One problem is because Democrats are very bad at advertising their wins, and Republicans are very good at manifesting anger about it.
Yeah. I think Democrats have reached too far personally right now. So I think they're going the gender stuff, and again, we disagree about it, but I think fighting for people here illegally to get any benefit besides deportation is a signal to the non-informed voter that you're soft on illegal immigration. And even if it's not, even if you think your plan's just better economically and that's why you're doing it, you understand what I was saying about the law and order implications of it, to the non-educated voter, I understand the nuances of what you're saying. I completely get it. In a way, I partially agree with it. But I just don't think the voter sees it that way. I think that they're not informed.
Well, this is a failing of Democrats. They need to make the voters. Republicans make polls. Democrats chase polls. That's a problem the Democratic Party has.
See, the Democrats, Kirsten Sinema and all of them were going out and saying this stuff, and they still lost ground in their races because all you have to do is play the Senate hearing where Democrats are arguing and then voting to keep illegal immigrants in the country if they get arrested drunk driving. Like, I remember when I was in the 90s, growing up, when, was it MAD, Moms Against Drunk Driving, were lobbying to make it that it was murder to drive drunk and kill somebody. They were trying to make these penalties worse so people would drive drunk less. And now in 2022, I think it was, or 2021, the Democrats were fighting to make sure that if you're illegally here and you get caught drunk driving, you don't get deported. Like, that to me just sends a bad message. And that's really what it is messaging is like, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know.
But yeah, that's my thing. Like, I'm trying to cover it from 10,000 feet. I'm not picking a side. All right, I just try to get everybody to see the other side is not evil.
Okay. Okay, well, good talk. I think we more or less touched on, well, not really everything. There's a lot. That's my problem with Trump's media strategy, but we touched on some major stuff.
No, you were pretty right about it. That's why I didn't hit on it.
Unless there's
everything.
What's that?
Everything I skipped over, I agreed with you on. Like, Trump being a fucking asshole in the media, I completely agree with you. That's why I didn't argue back.
Okay, well, unless there's anything else you'd like to discuss, I'm ready to wrap up if you are.
No, my plug is waiting for me. I told him 7:30 I'd be on the way, so.
Go get that weed, yo. By the way, just don't smoke during a conversation in the future.
Yeah,
you lost the thread. I could tell you lost the thread several times.
I did.
Okay.
That being said, reserve your judgment until you see me argue against a right-winger on where I stand, because they call me a fucking left-winger. Once you start hearing me start defend Biden...
My friend, there's no judgment to reserve. I don't judge. I just observe.
Just say, once you start seeing that shit, you'll be like, okay, I see what he's talking about. I'm fucking just homeless.
I believe you. All right, thanks for the talk. Peace, love, rock and roll, sir.
Yes, sir.
Oh! Okay. I don't even know where to start. I feel like the immigration debate was just painful. We were just talking past each other, and I felt like, God, he's not here to defend his position anymore, but he's kind of just like, it is what it is, right? Secretary of State, he could just revoke this stuff, and now you're illegal. Now you don't have a right. And it's just like, oh my God, I don't know how to get through to you. Then when I like point out, like, I swear to God, I got strawman there. Like, I kept getting pushed into, you support illegal immigration and you want to reward illegals with citizenship. And I felt like I distinctly remember saying the opposite. Like, no, I don't want to give people just citizenship, right? I want to give them a path to legalization. That could include a path to citizenship, sure. But I don't just want to give them that. And I'm fine with like charging a fine or a fee or something to some sort of penalty for illegally immigrating in the first place. But holy God, sometimes it feels like unless you support like ISIS-style executions for illegal immigrants, you're soft on immigration. And it feels like that's the conversation we want to have. And it's just a dumb conversation. Like, it's just not a good way to handle immigration. It's just not. Our economy could be so much better if we would just tap into the innovation of this human labor that keeps pouring into our country, right? The Statue of Liberty is just a symbol of America. It's just such a draw to people because America's this land of opportunity where anybody can come from any part of the world and build something for themselves and be American. That's a beautiful dream. That is the American dream. And it seems like we've lost sight of that because holy shit, man, we just hate immigrants. Like, it didn't feel like we were having a real conversation there. It felt like we're, immigrants don't get due process rights. Fuck them. Which is my issue. It's like, how do you even know they're illegal immigrants without due process? How do you even know they're not citizens? And it's like, oh, well, they got a registry. How do you know that registry is accurate? How do you know that registry hasn't been fucked? There's no due process, right? We need some due process. Okay, that was stressful. I didn't feel like I had a lot of... this is my first time talking to him. I've seen him a bit on Twitter, but it felt like every time I would try to get him to in a position where he had to like hold Trump to be accountable, he kind of defaulted onto two responses. One, it is what it is, and two, what about? At one point, he even says, yeah, I'm engaging in whataboutery, and it's totally valid. And it's the same with it is what it is. It's like, yeah, well, the voters support this, so yeah, what are you going to do? Eat a dick. And I don't know how to respond to that, because it's like we're having different conversations. Yeah, the voters might support one thing. My concern is what's correct, what's true, what's good for the country. Like, that's the conversation I'm trying to have, and he's trying to have a completely different conversation, which is weird because, like, this at some point, this deference to democracy while voting for a guy who says, long live the king, I'm going to be dictator on day one, we should just ignore the courts. Like, this isn't democracy. I'm going to run a third term. That's not democracy. I'm going to do a January 6th. That's not democracy. So, it felt like, it was better than, like, Pentuple TV, but it was, I don't know. I felt a little disappointed about it, the conversation, I guess. I think I expected more than the responses I got. It doesn't help that he was token the entire time. I could see him on the Discord window where he would take a puff, and it's like 40 seconds later I would say something and he just clearly like lost the thread. And I was like, that's the weed. I didn't know if I should say that because it feels like a little bad faith to say, hey man, you're too stoned to have this conversation. But it felt like there were certain times where he completely missed what I was saying as a consequence of the weed. No, please still find me that source. I'll send it to him. I told him I'd send it to him. Oh, nice. Yes, the debate is over. But, bro, I'm tired too. If you want to see why, hit the rewind button. But, think I'm, take my break. Yeah, I remember bringing it up at some point that Israel had violated their ceasefire, but I didn't know. I remember something about it, but I don't remember like the specific details. This conversation meandered a lot, and I had to recall like exact facts on the spot, like Stacey Abrams saying the election was stolen. Like, he brings up that example. I'm like, why did she say that? I remember there was a very legitimate reason she said that. God damn. What a headache. It's really annoying how you talk about Donald Trump using the levers of government to try to stay in office as the president. Every time you do that, it's, well, what about Stacey Abrams? What about Hillary Clinton? She said he's not a legitimate president. What about that? And it's like, God damn. None of these are on that level. All of them, left office or didn't get office. None of them enacted a plan to seize power. Like, I don't know why we're talking about any of this. None of them are president, right? But all right. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed the listen. Peace, love, rock and roll.